Welcome to Carrick Video's coverage of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship. This year we come to Darwin and the Hidden Valley Motorsport Complex. This year's running of the Australian Speedcar Championship has attracted over 50 entries, and the defending national champion is Graham Jones from Perth, Western Australia. Over the years, the title has been won by some of Australia's finest speedcar drivers and also an influx of American stars. So sit back now and enjoy Carrick Video's coverage of the 1990 National Speedcar Championship from Darwin's Northline Speedway.
Okay, and here we go now. Heat number 1 to be run over a distance of 12 laps, the first of 20 heats, culminating, of course, with the running of the Australian Speedcar Championship over a distance of 40 laps. But that's tomorrow night as we cast our attention now to the first heat, and on the pole position is Mike O'Donnell from North Queensland. Outside front row, Trevor Green from South Australia. Pace starts to quicken now as they come down to start heat number 1, and Trevor Green, driving car 58, goes to an immediate lead. He leads over Mike O'Donnell. Looks like Ron Glazebrook there from Western Australia. A bit of a jumble at the back of the field as the field sorts themselves out down into turn number 3 on the first occasion. And Mike O'Donnell still a race leader. Trevor Green tucked in there in second position. Ron Glazebrook third. And now Tom Watson Jr. driving car number 76 up into fourth position. One going high there too as Mike Figlimeni looks for a charge through on the inside further back in the field. There's Trevor Green now being chased hard. Car number 58. Trevor Green from South Australia. The young star of Australian speedcar racing, Trevor Green. Moving down now into turn number 1. Ron Glazebrook there, followed through by Tom Watson. And now Mike Figlimeni coming up into contention. A good battle here by the West Aussies. Also Neville Lance there as well as we move now to the head of the field as they come off turn number 4. Ron Glazebrook holding down third position, and now Trevor Green there. Also Neville Lance moving into contention. Mike Figlimeni around the outside of Trevor Green, and Terry King from New South Wales coming through on the inside. A good race. This is heat number 1 of the Australian Speedcar Championship as the field comes down to complete another lap. There's Mike Figlimeni in car number 34. He's now up into a strong running position, followed through by Terry King driving the Dominator Engineering Chevy 2-powered midget. Good race this one in the opening heat. There's Mike O'Donnell from North Queensland. Had a pretty well easy run, untroubled run out at the head of the field on this opening heat. Doing a good job as he completes another lap. But certainly a great scrap further back in the field as we continue to watch Mike O'Donnell. Now Mike Figlimeni going through. Mike Figlimeni up into second position at this stage, and I think you'll find Terry King now moving into third position. So that's the top 3 running order at the moment. Mike O'Donnell, Mike Figlimeni and Terry King. Not too many more laps remaining as we watch Mike O'Donnell moving down the back straightaway here at the Hidden Valley Motorsport Complex, the Northline Speedway in Darwin. However, now Mike Figlimeni certainly closing that gap. This will be an interesting final few laps. Mike Figlimeni applying the pressure there, looking for a run around the outside. Now tucks down onto the inside, loses a little ground if anything, but he soon makes that up as they line up into turn number 3. Tucks down hard onto the inside of Mike O'Donnell. And still Mike O'Donnell leading, and Mike Figlimeni takes another shot at Mike O'Donnell. Further back there in third position is Terry King, and the next one through in car number 8 is Neville Lance from Perth, Western Australia. Followed through by Ron Glazebrook also there, and Grant Coombe driving car number 55 from South Australia, the next one through. There's Terry King. Down into the first turn in the Dominator Engineering Chevy 2, followed closely by Neville Lance. Terry King holding down third position. Good close-up infield shot there of Neville Lance with 1 lap remaining. There's Mike O'Donnell, the race leader, and has a good advantage now over Mike Figlimeni. Terry King followed by Neville Lance. That's the top 4 running order on this final lap of heat number 1 as we watch Terry King negotiate turn number 3. And it looks though, however, Mike O'Donnell will go on and take the win. Officially placed second, Mike Figlimeni. Coming in third was Terry King, and fourth man home was Neville Lance. Interesting to note that the course commentator here has been calling Mike O'Donnell as Eric Mitchell, but we believe it was certainly Mike O'Donnell, the winner of heat number 1 in the Australian Speedcar Championship here at Northline Speedway.
Well, one driver who last year in Rockhampton was making his debut in the Australian Speedcar Championship is West Australian Mike Figlimeni. Mike, how much better will you be for that run in your first title appearance?
Well, hopefully this year I'll be more competitive. Last year was, like you said, my first title, and it was just to see how the competition was. I think I'd only ever run even one state title, and quite an experience. And I know back home we've got a lot of competition, and it wasn't really as bad as I expected.
How many years have you been driving speed cars, Mike?
3 seasons. Yep.
And of course last year and again this year the obvious standard of competition, not only throughout Australia, but of course you're up against some very tough drivers from your own home track at Claremont in Western Australia, in Perth.
Yeah. Well, at home we've got Tom Watson Senior, Graham Jones and Jeff Pilgrim and Keith Mann's come back again, and like those 4 have won titles in the last 6 years, so very competitive.
Now this track is a little smaller than the wide open spaces of the Claremont Speedway in Perth. How will you adjust to a slightly smaller track?
Well, we run quite a few country tracks. This is similar to a country track down in Esperance, which most of our guys at home like. It's a good change, a lot closer racing, and like at Claremont you have to have a real powerful car, long straights, and a smaller track sort of brings the competition together.
Now just very quickly tell us a little bit about the car you'll be running in the Australian title.
Well, it's a Murphy High Bar. I run it the past season at Claremont and Country, and it's got a Mitsubishi Sigma engine. It's got all good gear in it, like all the rest of the gear is real good. So hopefully it'll keep together.
The second heat now, and on the pole position, Keith Hutton from Queensland. Sharing the front row, Wayne Pearce representing Victoria. On the second row we have Jack Berry from Queensland and John Davidson. Good field this one to contest heat number 2. Man on the pole, Keith Hutton. And of course outside front row is Wayne Pearce, and John Davidson, the local Northern Territory star, certainly will watch his progress through the field. Also Bob Holt in this one from the Northern Territory, as the pace starts to quicken now as they line up into the first turn, and Keith Hutton goes to an immediate lead, followed through by Wayne Pearce, Jack Berry, John Davidson also there moving through as the field runs down. There's Gary Dillon driving car 18, and Bob Holt backing it into the wall, going into turn number 3, bringing on the yellow lights. Of course, Bob Holt, one of the senior statesmen of Australian speed car racing, a man with many years experience driving midgets, former Sydney sider, and of course for a number of years now has been based in the Northern Territory as the crash crew attendants now move his car from the outfield. Just about set to go once again. Complete restart to heat number 2 as they quicken off turn 4. One looking for a big run around the outside is Johnny Davidson. A superb pass by Johnny Davidson, taking over the race lead on the first occasion. Rod Bowen there as Phil Herreen further back in the field looks for, Johnny Davidson washes out in turn number 4, and Keith Hutton back through into the race lead, going down to complete one lap. Johnny Davidson driving car number 12 in second position. Berry the next one through, followed by Pearce's Phil Herreen also looks for a run around the outside further back. But it's Keith Hutton doing a beautiful job out in front down the main straightaway as we watch Phil Herreen on the high line looking for a run around Danny Van Erd driving car number 46, and there's Phil Herreen up on the high line, moves up one more position in the field as we watch Johnny Davidson in car number 12. Now smoke billowing from Keith Hutton's car, and Keith Hutton didn't bother. Bad luck for Keith Hutton. Johnny Davidson now takes over the race lead. Certainly plenty of drama in heat number 2 of the Australian Speedcar Championship, as now Keith Hutton takes no further part in this race and pulls off onto the infield as John Davidson leads. Johnny Davidson, the race leader, there he is on screen, down in turn number 1 and doing a beautiful job out in front, lines up for a run down the back straightaway, and Johnny Davidson well clear at this stage into turn number 3. Now gets the car better on line as he comes off turn number 4, but here's the big mover, Phil Herreen, driving the ex-Stan Fox midget car number 23. He moves up now into second position. Jack Berry back there in third spot. That's the top 3 running order. Johnny Davidson, Phil Herreen and Jack Berry. Good close-up shot there of infield shot of Jack Berry as we watch now Phil Herreen, and Phil Herreen really moving in now on John Davidson. John Davidson, however, does have a handy advantage, but not too far behind is Phil Herreen, and he's certainly narrowing that gap. And Phil Herreen certainly one of the top drivers in midget racing in Australia, a man with many years experience, and really he's just completed a top 1989-90 season at his home base at Adelaide Speedway Park in South Australia, recorded 4 feature race wins during the season, and certainly a great driver, Phil Herreen. And during the RDA presentation night recently, took out the top point scorer award for feature race competition at Speedway Park in Adelaide, as we watch him now narrowing that margin on Johnny Davidson. There's a good shot of Phil Herreen working the car down the main straightaway, but John Davidson still leads. Oh, his problems, they come up to lap Alf Stanaway from Queensland in car number 17. Johnny Davidson has a go on the inside, and now Phil Herreen around the outside. Oh, good effort by Phil Herreen right up on the outside, but it's going to be the lap car that will prove the saviour for John Davidson, and John Davidson retains that lead, but Phil Herreen is right there, and certainly that lap car did cause a few problems to the top front running contenders in this race, but John Davidson sticking to his guns, holding a beautiful line with 1 lap remaining. John Davidson still the race leader. Phil Herreen not giving up the chase in second position, coming again on the outside, loses a little ground, if anything, down the back straightaway on the final occasion. John Davidson skips clear into turn number 3. Phil Herreen coming yet again, but it'll be John Davidson will go on and take the money. John Davidson first in heat number 2. You'll find Phil Herreen officially placed second. Third man through is Jack Berry, followed through by Bob Holt, and the next one through Danny Van Erd. And Gary Dillon completing the top 6 in heat number 2 as we watch Danny Van Erd smoking. Danny Van Erd, who came in 5th position in heat number 2. There's Danny Van Erd on screen, obviously got some engine problem there with the number 46 race car. There's the race winner, Johnny Davidson, the Northern Territory star, the local star here at the Northline Speedway in Darwin, and certainly a good win going out to Davidson from Phil Herreen and Jack Berry, the top 3.
Barry Graham, team manager, chief mechanic, mentor and father for Stephen Graham. Barry, certainly the practice night was full of dramas for your racing team.
Sure was, Dennis. We're lucky that we made it the week before so we could have a week's practice. We run the Saturday night prior, and on Wednesday night come out and broke a crank first up. So we've had a few laps on the racetrack, and we've now fitted it with a new engine, and we'll see what we can do tonight. So
virtually it's going into the first heat untried, basically, the car, the driver and the track.
Yeah, the whole deal. Well, Andy drew position 1, so it's it's going to be real interesting.
And indeed it will be real interesting too as we watch young Stephen Graham starting from the pole position. Certainly the Graham team had their share of problems, as Barry has outlined during practice, but of course young Steve now got his chance to put some points on the board, going from the pole position in heat number 3. Sharing the front row with Stephen Graham is Graham Parton, a New South Wales second row with Gavin Lear and Aaron Benny. Just about set to go now in heat number 3. Should get a start this time around. Yes, and away we go in heat number 3. And on a coming together there too of Stephen Graham and Graham Parton. Aaron Benny going through to the race lead. One making forward progress is Tom Watson Sr. in car 75. Warren Eakins bicycling in turn number 4. Gets the car sorted out and continues on in the race. Drops a few placings, however. There's Stephen Graham driving car number 83 on the screen at the present time. David Grace also there too as we watch Warren Eakins further back in the field. There's Aaron Benny driving car number 32, the Beast race car, moving down the main straightaway. Tom Watson Sr. also quickly into stride too. Graham Parton the race leader. Aaron Benny holding down second position, and Tom Watson Sr. coming into contention. Aaron Benny tucking down low on Graham Parton as they go down the main straightaway to complete another lap. Graham Parton leading, Aaron Benny second, Tom Watson Sr. in third, followed by Warren Eakins, and Warren Eakins certainly the big mover in this one, coming through from near the back of the field already up into 4th position as we watch Graham Parton still leading the top 4 now, closing up. Tom Watson Senior there looking for a way through on the inside of Benny. Also Warren Eakins looking for a split through on the inside of Tom Watson Senior. Certainly developing into a good heat. This one, heat number 3 of the Australian Speedcar Championship. And now Tom Watson Senior moves up one position. Benny coming again on the inside. And Warren Eakins now looking for a split around the outside on both of them. Still Graham Parton leading, and Warren Eakins ducking down low on Benny. Picks up another placing now into third position, Warren Eakins. Still Graham Parton out front. Tom Watson Senior in second position, and Warren Eakins. They in turn were followed by Aaron Benny, and now Tom Watson Senior looking for the split on Graham Parton, and likewise Warren Eakins. Nothing between the top three, and now Tom Watson Senior through into the race lead, and followed through on the inside by Warren Eakins. So a complete change of the top 2 running order. Tom Watson Senior, the race leader. Warren Eakins in second, followed through by Aaron Benny in third. They in turn were tailed out by Graham Parton, and now Warren Eakins looking for a way through on the inside and takes over the race lead in heat number 3. The new race leader, Warren Eakins. A beautiful job from near the back of the field, coming down to complete another lap. Not too many laps remaining into turn number 1. Warren Eakins driving the Murphy High Bar, powered by a Cosworth race car, and a good drive by Warren Eakins. Beautiful line coming through turn number 4 down the main straightaway. There's Tom Watson Senior and Aaron Benny. Graham Parton also the next one through there. But certainly Warren Eakins, the driver that many feel is the heir apparent to the Australian Speedcar Championship, the local star here at Northline, and a big mover around the Northline Speedway, and certainly top race equipment campaigned by Warren Eakins. And we're already seeing this opening heat that Cosworth certainly has plenty of power as he extends that race lead to now a very comfortable advantage as we watch Tom Watson Senior coming through with just 1 lap remaining. And there's Warren Eakins driving car number 45, has this race safely in his keeping, down the back straightaway on the final time, lining up into turn number 3 and going on now to take the win in heat number 3. And a good win too it was to Warren Eakins. You'll find Tom Watson Senior officially placed second, Aaron Benny third, followed across the line there by Graham Parton. Looks like Wayne Cover also the next one through there as the rest of the field stream through across the finish line. But no doubting the race winner, and there he is on screen in the Murphy High Bar Cosworth machine. Warren Eakins officially placed first, Tom Watson Senior second, and coming in third was Aaron Benny. But Warren Eakins, as I say, the local star here at the Northline Speedway, and maximum points first up. Now we move our attention to heat number 4, which will feature the first appearance of the defending Australian Speedcar champion. There he is in car number 1, Graham Jones from Perth, Western Australia, the Ledger Engineering Rotomotion Mobile team. And Graham Jones putting his title on the line over 2 nights here in Darwin. Cosworth powered midget, and certainly Graham Jones. Also a good contingent of Western Australian drivers here. There's Jeff Pilgrim, former national champion. And Pilgrim, one of the top guns here in Darwin. Just about set now for a start. And on the pole position, John Thompson from Alice Springs. Outside of the front row, Robbie Armstead from the Northern Territory. Inside second row, Graham Jones, the current Australian champion, driving car number 1. And the outside of the second row in car number 69 is Chaz Madden from South Australia. Just about set to go in heat number 4. Yes, and away they go in heat number 4, and Graham Jones quickly out of the pack and straight to the lead in turn number 1. Well, Graham Jones certainly just declared his intentions very early in this race, bolted to the lead and leading down into turn number 3. Graham Jones, the defending Australian title holder, Jeff Pilgrim also there, and moving up into position as the rest of the field further back sort themselves out. John Thompson going a little high and moving through on the inside there in car number 59 is Darren Power from Victoria. But there's Robbie Amstead bouncing through turn number 4, followed closely by Jeff Pilgrim. Pilgrim up high. Pilgrim, of course, won the Australian Speedcar Championship in 1983 at the Archerfield circuit in Queensland, And oh, Pilgrim washing out badly there as we just out of screen, just caught him going out of screen. But there's the race leader, Graham Jones, down the main straight, lines up into turn one, has this race. Oh, and Pilgrim all over the racetrack. Obviously some problems there with car number 2, the Nissan powered midget. And now Jeff Blake driving the Gambler High Bar Cosworth machine, goes through on the inside of an out of shape Jeff Pilgrim. He moves up one more position now as we watch Blake driving car number 51 moving up on the tail of car 59. Darren Power from Victoria, Robbie Armstead there at the near the head of the field. Jeff Blake gets a little out of shape, and here's Robbie Armstead on screen at the present time. Robbie Armstead driving car number 9, representing the Northern Territory. Mark Gilbert going through there too in car number 78 from South Australia. He's moving up onto the tail of Jeff Blake. Tries for a run on Jeff Blake. However, now Blake goes through on the inside there of Power, and Blake doing a fine job further back in the field at this stage, however, and Blake coming up now on Robbie Armstead. Also there too, as I say, Mark Gilbert, but here's the man who's well clear, has this race well and truly in his keeping, is Graham Jones, putting now a lap on car number 42, which is Terry Holland from Queensland, goes under John Thompson from the Alice Springs driver, John Thompson, as we watch the beautiful style of the number 1 driver in Australia up until Darwin. Of course, we're watching Graham Jones, and of course many believe he will still retain that championship here in Darwin. Certainly a superb performer is Graham Jones, and a man who runs top flight equipment and running with certainly a very strong Cosworth engine there. And certainly the field strung out as we watch John Thompson going through there. Interesting to note that the points allocation for the Australian Speedcar Championship, for first place at 401 points, second placing 300 points, 225 points are allocated for third position as we watch Graham Jones lapping car number 69, Chaz Madden. Fourth place getter across the line picks up 169 points with 1 lap remaining. Fifth spot 127, sixth 95 points, seventh 71, eighth 54, ninth 40 points, and 10th 30 points. As we watch Graham Jones coming off turn number 4 now, going on to take the checkered flag and an easy win in heat number 4. You'll find officially placed second, looks like Jeff Blake coming through to take second position. Yes, it was Jeff Blake officially placed second. Mark Gilbert will take third. Darren Power the next one through, and I think you'll find Robbie Armstead will be the 5th place getter in that particular heat. So just running through those top 5 finishes as we watch Graham Jones on screen. Of course, Graham Jones first. Officially placed second was Jeff Blake. Mark Gilbert third. Rounding out the other finishes, Darren Power in 4th and Robbie Armstead 5th.
The defending Australian Speedcar champion Graham Jones from Perth, Western Australia. Graham, a new race, a new title, and you've made some changes to the car, but it's still the same car that you won in Rockhampton, I understand.
Basically the same car, except we might have upset Kim, the car owner, a little bit. We did cut it about a fair bit after last year. In fact, the car this year now has just been completely rebuilt for this title. We just spent the last 2 months, because we're not racing down south, and it's here now as a brand new race car.
Why did you make the changes? Was it to suit Northline, or was it just purely by development?
No, purely development, yeah, which worked out good for us for the rest of the season at home. We've had a brilliant year there, and we just carried on from that development for up here, so we hope we're on the right track.
Of course, you've been over to the States too to pick up some gear as well, so you're obviously your approach to the title very serious in defending the championship.
Yeah, very serious. I think this year there's a lot more better equipment this year, especially up here. It's a long distance to travel, and I think the guys that have come know that they're in with a chance, otherwise they wouldn't have bothered coming.
Words of wisdom there from Graham Jones as we move on now to the next heat. And a good feel this one too to run over the 12 lap distance. Neville Lance, of course, representing Western Australia. The man on the pole position, however, is Eric Smith from Victoria. Gary Dillon there in car number 18. Car number 17, Alf Stanaway from Queensland. Sharing the front row with Eric Smith, of course, is Mike Figlimeni. Showed good form in his first race of the night with a second place finish. And a bit of a jumble start, however, but Mike Figlimeni goes straight to the race lead. Dillon there in 18, Neville Lance, and also Rod Bowen trying to sneak through. In the middle of that is Aaron Benny, and now Dillon for a high line around the outside, followed through by Neville Lance. Neville Lance tucking down on the inside of Gary Dillon to try and pick up another placing. Also Benny trying to get through there on the inside of Eric Smith in Victoria, car number 88. Rod Bowen the next one through behind Smith, as we move now to the battle here between Gary Dillon from South Australia, former South Australian Speedcar champion. There he is on screen, working hard, removes a tear off as he's chased hard by Neville Lance down into turn number 1. And while all this is happening, Mike Figlimeni well clear. Aaron Benny going through in car number 32, and car 34. Get the 30 sorted out in a minute, but Mike Figlimeni still the race leader. Gary Dillon in second, followed through by Neville Lance down into the first turn. Mike Figlimeni leading, Gary Dillon trying to close that gap. Neville Lance also looking for a way through or around whatever possible when he can get to Gary Dillon, but Gary Dillon has a good advantage at this stage over Neville Lance. There's Figlimeni down the main straightaway and still leading, and of course the West Australian contingent, as I said, very strong here in Darwin. And when you look at the title winners from Western Australia over previous years, certainly they've been well represented through the 70s and more so in the 80s. Of course, Johnny Fenton, the winner in 1975 and 76. And then in the 80s, we saw Keith Mann win in 81. Keith Mann again in 1982. Jeff Pilgrim in 1983, and Keith Mann, in fact, here at the Northline Speedway, won in 1984. So Mike Figlimeni certainly hoping to continue on that domination by the West Australian drivers, particularly in the 80s, as he leads heat number 5, and Mike Figlimeni doing a fine job out in front, but now certainly a lap car getting in the way there, and this is causing him a few problems right at the moment. Certainly he gets around the outside of Smith, but this allows the Gary Dillon, and particularly Dillon and Lance, to close up. And now Neville Lance going through, looking for a run through on the inside of Dillon, tries to push hard through on the inside, but Dillon sticks to that line beautifully and still maintains that second position. Now Neville Lance coming again on the inside, but Dillon gets the drive around the outside once again down the back straightaway. Certainly a good battle this for the second and third positions in heat number 5, but still it's Figlimeni leading. And further back, I think you'll find that Aaron Benny still in 4th position, followed through by Rod Bowen in 5th spot. So that's the top 5 overall: Figlimeni, Dillon, Lance, Benny and Bowen. And there's Neville Lance on screen, going down to complete something like only 2 laps remaining in the 5th heat. And Figlimeni coming up to these lap cars, and this is where it gets really interesting. But Figlimeni hasn't put a wheel wrong so far, as he dives down on the inside line there to complete another lap. And Figlimeni, certainly 1 lap remaining for Mike Figlimeni, and Gary Dillon goes through on the inside of that lap car. Looks like it was car number 43. We're not sure. Looks like it was 43, but there's Figlimeni as he comes up to lap Gavin Lear. So Gavin Lear, as Figlimeni takes the checkered flag. Officially placed second was Gary Dillon, and coming in third was Neville Lance. So that's the top 3. Aaron Benny, you'll find, filled 4th placing, and rounding up the top 5 was Rod Bowen, the former compact speedcar champion from Sydney. But no doubt about the race winner. There he is on screen, Mike Figlimeni, driving car number 34 from Western Australia. Dillon second and Neville Lance third.
The 1989-90 season Masters champion, South Australian Gary Dillon. Gary, no doubt the race fans will remember your wretched run you had at Rockhampton last year in the Speedcar title. Certainly you'll be obviously looking for better luck in Darwin.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when you're going, and when you're not, you're not. And we went all the way to Rockhampton, and it was going well, but we broke a crankshaft. There's no warnings or anything. It just broke, and we didn't have a spare motor. So that was our luck for there.
Now you've updated since Rockhampton, race equipment-wise?
Yeah, we got a new car now. We bought a new engine actually, and we had bad luck with that as well. And we bought the new car with the engine. We've put our this is the engine actually that we won the Masters Series in the new car.
Now, with such tough competition here in Darwin, obviously, it's going to be probably, would it be fair to say, one of the most open speedcar titles in more recent years, just like last year at Rockhampton?
Yeah, it could be. You know, I've been doing this for 10 years or so, and if you don't break down or get tangled up in an accident, I usually find that it's the same old faces in the top 10 at the end. And, you know, we always think that's going to be hard. But yeah, every Australian title seems to be very open.
You seemed to dial into the track pretty well in practice the other night.
Yeah, well, it was hooky, and where we come from, and you know, from Adelaide, and then we go to Parramatta and now Wagga, and it's very hooky tracks, and you get accustomed to what you're used to. And I spent a couple of years in America following Sleepy Strip and Stan Fox around, and learn a lot about suspension, so I can take a lot of shortcuts now.
I guess a few guys will be looking for some shortcuts here at the Australian title with something like 53 cars here. Certainly good quality fields and good quality equipment here as the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship goes under the flag. This is heat number 6 on the pole position, Stephen Graham from Sydney. And away we go in heat number 6, and the best to begin on the outside was Grant Coombe in car number 55, Tom Watson Jr. in car 76 around the outside. There's Stephen Graham in 83 doing battle with Mark Gilbert. Gilbert gets through, but Tom Watson Jr. is the race leader now as they come down the main straightaway. And Terry King there in car number 16, the next one through. Also Graham Parton in car number 33. Grant Coombe up a little high in driving car number 55, followed through by Stephen Graham. But there's the race leader just going out of screen, Tom Watson Jr. driving car 76, as one goes up high near the wall there as they come down the main straightaway to complete another lap. And Jeff Blake there also in car number 51, the next one through. There's Mark Gilbert, and he's holding down a front-running position at this stage, followed through on the inside there by Terry King. Gilbert in 78 and King in the Dominator Engineering Chevy 2. King driving car number 16 now lines up for a run through, a shot at Mark Gilbert there, but couldn't pull it off. And it's still Tom Watson Jr. leading, but here's a good scrap here for the minor placings. Terry King and Mark Gilbert. Gilbert up on the high line, King on the low line. Gilbert coming again on the outside, and King coming through on the inside, running wheel to wheel down the back straightaway into the third corner. And oh, ever so close there. Great midget racing. This two cars running wheel to wheel without making contact with one another. Superb midget action from these two drivers. Gilbert in 78, King on the inside, trying once again. Gilbert clear down the back straightaway, opens a margin narrowly, just pulling a little bit of distance on Terry King in actual fact, but there's nothing in it between these top three runners, and particularly 78 driven by Mark Gilbert and Terry King in 16. And this is where the scrap is. You can forget Tom Watson Jr. He's well clear, and it looks as though he's got this race well, I wouldn't say parcelled up, but he's certainly running strongly out in front, as now Terry King gains the ascendancy through on the inside of Mark Gilbert and moves up into second position. A fine drive by King in car number 16, but Mark Gilbert coming again on the outside, but he's lost that advantage at this stage and will continue to push hard to try and get back that second position. But and one there looks like Grant Coombe in car number 55 in a spot of bother, slowing in turn number 1. But Tom Watson Jr. leading from Terry King and Mark Gilbert. That's the top three. Tom Watson Jr., the race leader. And problems up here between turns 1 and 2. And also the other driver involved is Bob Hull. Certainly not a happy opening in the heats for Bob Holt. Certainly problems in his earlier heat, as you will remember, and now he's got tangled with Grant Coombe in car 55. Restart once again to heat number 6. Tom Watson Jr. to lead away Terry King, Mark Gilbert. Away they go once more, and Tom Watson Jr. looking further back in the field there. It's Stephen Graham and also Graham Parton. So they're holding down 4th and 5th positions respectively. But Tom Watson Jr. certainly getting the car sideways as he comes off turn number 4. Terry King really not much in it at all, really. This has been a great heat, heat number 6. Superb midget racing. Absolutely brilliant midget racing, particularly when you look at the calibre of drivers, the calibre of equipment here. 2 laps remaining as we watch the top 3 battle it out. Stephen Graham in 4th position, Graham Parton in 5th. But Tom Watson Jr. virtually setting himself up for a win now in heat number 6. Not too many more laps remaining. Tom Watson Jr., there he is on camera, followed through by Terry King. 1 lap remaining for the top 3. Watson Jr., Terry King and Mark Gilbert. And King really doing a fine job here, and he's certainly taking the race right up to Tom Watson Jr. in the final stages, but it'll be Tom Watson Jr. who will go on and take the win. Certainly Terry King in second spot, Mark Gilbert, Stephen Graham the next one through, followed of course through by Graham Part and Jeff Blake also there crossing the finish line. So just confirming those placings in heat number 6, Tom Watson Jr. first, Terry King second, Mark Gilbert third, and they're the top 3 in heat number 6. A fine heat in the Australian Speedcar Championship as we watch Jeff Blake. I don't know what happened to him there. Stranded up in turn number 1. You can just see him at the top of the screen there. And certainly Terry King not to be denied with that strong second place finish. And Terry King has been running midgets certainly for a number of years, yet his appearances in Australian Championships have been few and far between.
Yes, Dennis. Although I've raced midgets now for about 16 years, a lot of that time I'd run 1 year and then I'd be out for 2 or 3 years. But the last couple of years is the first time I've been doing the full season.
Terry, do you subscribe to the theory that speed car racing in Australia is growing stronger and stronger day by day? I mean, up here in Darwin, you've got something like 50 cars.
Oh, I think so, Dennis. You only got to look at the quality of the cars here tonight. What an uphill battle it is, you know. Like, midgets are definitely on a roll.
Well, I had a couple of lean years in the early to mid-70s, but I think since the turn of the 80s into the 80s, the decade, they've been coming stronger and stronger all the time.
Yes, Dennis. You know, midget racing is just it's not that expensive that people can't afford it, and you got a variety of engines. You know, like people can run different types of engines, and that opens up different possibilities with sponsors and so forth, instead of being locked into a one-engine deal.
Well, this is what we've spoken with several drivers tonight about engines and type of chassis designs. The technology in speed car racing, Terry, it's certainly come a long way from the Ironhead Holdens and the great era of the Sydney Showground.
Well, the great era of the Sydney Showground, they were Ironhead Holdens and Ironhead men that drove them, because
with a lead foot.
With a lead foot, yeah. I drove a Holden, and I'll tell you, you really had your work cut out.
You've been a great lover, I guess you could say, of the Chevy 2. What is it with the Chevy 2 that you've found a great engine which goes right back to the heyday of the Offenhauser?
Well, I originally got interested in the Chev because they were an affordable alternative to the Offenhauser. I had an Offie. I could afford to run it, but I couldn't afford the best of everything. I moved to a Chevy 2 so that I could afford the best of everything, and I've had a very reliable and trouble-free run with them.
Okay, heat number 7, and this promises to be a cracker of a heat. On the pole position, Tom Watson Sr. in car number 75, sharing the front row, Eric Mitchell driving car 24 from Queensland. Also in this one is Phil Herreen and also Graham Jones. On the inside of the second row there is Darren Power driving car number 55. Outside second row, John Thompson from the Northern Territory in car number 41. But as I say, should be a good one, this one, with several of the big guns, Tom Watson Sr., Phil Herreen and Graham Jones, of course, in this one as the pace starts to quicken now, and Tom Watson Sr. goes straight to the lead. There's Darren Power in car 59 and a jumble, Wayne Cover getting into bother there as Phil Herreen moves around the outside of Clive Baxter, and now Graham Jones up onto the high line and moving up, but gets a little out of shape, drifts wide in actual fact, car washing out as Phil Herreen charges through in car 23. Here's Phil Herreen down low and runs right up onto the tail now of Graham Jones, and you can rest assured these two are going to have a battle royal as Graham Jones moves to the outside, overtakes Darren Power and Phil Herreen following him through, and Graham Jones, Eric Mitchell there in 24 further ahead in the field, and Jones followed through now. Darren Power, the driver that Phil Herreen is negotiating on the outside, and he is back on the tail of Graham Jones. Graham Jones now beginning to work away on Eric Mitchell, and Phil Herreen tucking in tight there too down the inside of Graham Jones. Jones up on the high line, Phil Herreen through on the inside. A great battle. And Graham Jones around sideways, bringing on the yellow lights. But what a race in heat number 7 between Graham Jones and Phil Herreen. But now on camera, Graham Jones continuing on. The yellow lights have come on, and the field slows down the main straightaway. Graham Jones now picking up the pace and coming down the main straightaway. But boy, oh boy, we anticipated this would be one of the heats of the opening night heats of the title. And Phil Herreen and Graham Jones going at it, hammer and tongs there. While all that was going on, Tom Watson Sr. was the race leader in actual fact. And I dare say Graham Jones, being the man who caused the stoppage, the yellow lights to come on, well, we would have thought gone to the rear of the field. Maybe we'll see a protest flag here. Well, Graham Jones looks like he's going into his original position there, behind Eric Mitchell. We'll just wait for some sort of a decision here. Yes, there's the protest flag going out to Graham Jones, and Graham Jones now will have to move to the tail of the field. Phil Herreen moving up on Graham Jones, and also, yes, and Graham Jones, as you see, going back to the tail of the field. Wayne Cover there in car number 11. So Graham Jones has to do it the hard way from the back, I guess you could say in the great tradition of Australian speed car racing. And certainly Graham Jones will have his work cut out, because there's the man who's been setting them all a merry chase at the head of the field, Tom Watson Sr. in car 75, as the lights turn to green once again, and Graham Jones quickly into stride as I speak, rounds up Darren Power, now sets his sights on Wayne Cover, dives in hard on the inside of Wayne Cover, but it's still the race leader, Tom Watson Sr. Clive Baxter also there, as Graham Jones, Wayne Cover, Clive Baxter, and just ahead of them is Phil Herreen, tailing out as Darren Power. Now Graham Jones sets himself for a run down the outside of Clive Baxter. Oh, and touches Clive Baxter. Well, this is not Graham Jones's heat. Oh, and John Thompson also coming in there too. But boy, oh boy, Graham Jones in all sorts of bother in heat number 7. Bringing on the yellow lights once again. And Graham Jones once more will have to do it from the tail of the field as crash crews now try and separate the two cars. We wait for the restart. Tom Watson Sr. leading them away now. Phil Herreen up into second position, followed through there on the inside in car number 3, it looks like, by Clive Baxter. Wayne Cover getting out of shape. Oh, gee, Graham Jones in all sorts of bother in this heat, tailing out to the tail of the field. But now Phil Herreen has taken over the race lead, and diving down into the first turn, Tom Watson Sr. coming again on the inside. Oh, magic stuff from Tom Watson Sr. and Phil Herreen as they battle it out down the back straightaway. Phil Herreen gets the advantage. Tom Watson coming again on the inside, running wheel to wheel down the main straightaway. A great race this, Tom Watson Sr. and Phil Herreen. And Tom Watson Sr., but Herreen again through on the outside, and nothing between them, absolutely nothing between them, but it's Phil Herreen who takes over the leadership of heat number 7, and Tom Watson Sr. relegated through to second. Wayne Cover the next one through. They in turn were followed by Graham Jones, but what a great drive by Phil Herreen, taking over the race lead at the middle stages of heat number 7 as we watch Graham Jones working away on Wayne Cover. Further back in 4th spot is Graham Jones, so we'll just run through the top 4 running order at this stage. Phil Herreen the race leader. Next through is Tom Watson Sr., followed by Wayne Cover and Graham Jones. Graham Jones now diving low on the low line on the inside of Wayne Cover as Phil Herreen, Wayne Cover there and Graham Jones involved in a battle for 3rd and 4th. But boy, oh boy, there's no stopping Phil Herreen. This car that he's running is the ex Stan Fox, the American Stan Fox, who drove the car in New Zealand earlier this year. And of course, Phil Herreen purchased the car whilst over there, representing Australia in the Australian test team, which also included Graham Jones and Ray Bishop from Victoria. There he is on screen, on camera, Phil Herreen, coming through with 1 lap remaining in heat number 7. Phil Herreen, a beautiful drive, but this has been a classic heat, particularly the early battle between Graham Jones and Phil Herreen, and then that great dice between Tom Watson Sr. and Phil Herreen. Some superb midget action here at the Northline Speedway in Darwin as Phil Herreen takes the checkered flag and the winner of heat number 7. Next man across the line was Tom Watson Senior. They in turn were followed by Wayne Cover. Next one through was Graham Jones, followed by Clive Baxter and Darren Power, rounding out the top 6. But a good win, a superb drive by Phil Herreen from South Australia. One of the senior men in Australian racing is Phil Herreen, and a man that has great experience, and a good win, as I say, going out to the man who we spoke with earlier tonight, Phil Herreen.
Since last year, you've gone to New Zealand and you're driving quite a different race car from last year at Rockhampton.
Yeah, we ran the Genetton Volkswagen Autocraft car up there. We ran that for a couple of years, couple of seasons downtown. Took it to New Zealand, and it did a fairly good job over there. The Cosworths and their Pontiacs and such things were a bit big for them, and while we were there, we saw the beast that was there that Stan Fox was running, and that performed extremely well, and we sort of thought about it for the month we were there, that was the sort of car we probably should be looking forward to, if we were going to stay in the game and, try to blow a bit of dust towards Jonesy. I mean, Jonesy was over there as captain of our team with Ray Bishop, and we went and learned a lot in a month and come back, and anyhow, the guy who owned the car, Scotty Hirsch, who Stan was running for, said, look, the car was available for sale, but, at the right price, so we didn't want to see it go back to the States and then go back looking for it, so we finally did a deal with them, so very pleased.
Is it fair to say that the Beast are 1990 state-of-the-art in speed car racing?
They seem to be, yeah. I mean, state-wise, they've done a hell of a job over there, and I think the engines that they've been putting into them, Bob East went to Gertie and had them design this Chev engine. It's like a Chev, and they're getting good horsepower out of them and good reliability. The Pontiacs were having a little bit of trouble, and they decided they'd go to a new engine, a Gertie Rodec, and they've stayed together. So they're basically Chev, so you can buy bits, pistons, rings, bearings, and heads and injection. Everyone in Australia is running that sort of gear in V8s, and this is just sort of like a half of one. So we thought, well, this is probably the way to go. They had the best performance in the States, so that's what we thought we'd go with it.
And certainly Phil Herreen putting down some good performances here at Northline as we cast our attention now to the next heat. And on the pole position will be Mike O'Donnell from North Queensland. Sharing that front row position will be Ron Glazebrook representing Western Australia. Inside second row position held by Warren Eakins. Outside second row John Davidson, Trevor Green and David Gross, and Jeff Pilgrim also in this heat. So it should be a good one as the pace starts to quicken. Coming off turn number 4. Yes, we're running in heat number 8. And going through to an immediate lead on the outside there is Ron Glazebrook. However, Mike O'Donnell coming in on the inside washes out badly. This allows Warren Eakins to move up into position number 2, but Ron Glazebrook coming again on the outside. Now in second position. Warren Eakins tucking down low. Now takes over the second running. Ron Glazebrook on the outside there, but Mike O'Donnell leading. And now Jeff Pilgrim also up there into contention, holding down the 4th spot. Jack Berry going high, wide and handsome around the outside, and Pilgrim up on the high line too. Berry sneaks through on the inside. And certainly some great battles for the minor placings here as heat number 8 unfolds. Still Mike O'Donnell there. He's got his work cut out, however. Jeff Pilgrim now coming through once again on the inside of Jack Berry. They've been having a great scrap right from the outset. But the heat number 8, and Mike O'Donnell washes out badly, but Warren Eakins really well cleared, just caught him there at the top of the screen. He's almost opened up a full length of the straight lead over this battle for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. But Warren Eakins, he is really no problems at all at the top of the field. Mike O'Donnell in second spot. They in turn were followed through by Ron Glazebrook, and now Jeff Pilgrim goes through on the inside of Ron Glazebrook. Glazebrook coming again on the inside. Jack Berry around the outside of David Gross. Pilgrim driving the Nissan-powered midget and making a good fist of this one as he works away on the inside once again of O'Donnell. There's Glazebrook, David Gross, Berry still persisting with that high line, and Trevor Green and John Davidson at the back of the field. One blowing smoke there as we zoom in on Mike O'Donnell. Yes, there he is as Jack Berry once again goes to that high line. Looks like it's Ron Glazebrook, and Glazebrook in bother, and one slowing also on the main straightaway, and certainly drama's unfolding. Looks like it might have been Jeff Pilgrim, the driver, slowing on the main straightaway. There's David Gross. Oh, and have a look at the exhaust pipe of Trevor Green's machine there. Looks as though he's come into contact maybe with another car, and the field goes through. John Davidson there through as the heat number 8 unfolds. John Davidson at the back of this great scrap. Oh, and Trevor Green and David Gross have a coming together. David Gross slowing, and John Davidson also coming to a halt. John Davidson on screen driving car number 12, and the yellow light's on, but certainly some good battles in the minor placings. There's Trevor Green coming down. Looks like he's trying to adjust his neck collar there. Maybe have some problem. But that exhaust pipe looks as though he might have run into somebody, or someone might have ran into him. Warren Eakins to lead them away. Warren Eakins at the top of the field. No problems whatsoever for Warren Eakins. Looks as though he's heading for his second consecutive win of the night, but the stewards aren't happy about something here. Trevor Green now pulling on to the infield. And it looks as though he's being ordered to the infield. Starter John Day there pointing to his neck collar. Perhaps there's a problem with his neck collar. Maybe it wasn't fastened properly. He's not too happy. Certainly, obviously very, yes, and to the officials as well. Thanks very much. Trevor Green not very happy at all. And problems for Trevor Green. And he still wants to go on with it as far as the officials are concerned. But the lights now change back to green. Certainly plenty of drama in heat number 8. But Warren Eakins, he's heading... Warren Eakins just a little offline, if anything. But he soon rectifies the problem and charges away down the back straightaway into turn number 3. Jack Berry around the outside of Mike O'Donnell. And Mike O'Donnell's certainly driven a good race in heat number 8. And he's held off Jack Berry virtually from the outset. And now Johnny Davidson in car number 12 coming again. Berry around the outside, Davidson going for the split on the inside there, and in between them is O'Donnell, and this is the battle for second, third and fourth placing. You can forget Warren Eakins, he's got it won, but this is where the interest is for the minor placings. Now Jack Berry there on screen as we zoom back to Warren Eakins. There he is, well clear, has this race in his keeping, no problems whatsoever. 2 laps remaining for Warren Eakins, and Warren Eakins in the Cosworth-Murphy high bar, and he has this race absolutely blitzed them. The race shot to pieces, lining up into turn number 3, now coming around to complete all but 1 lap of the 8th heat of the Australian Speedcar Championship, sponsored by Mitsubishi Motors here in Darwin. And Warren Eakins now driving down the back straightaway for the final time, coming into turn number 3, heading for that checkered flag to make it 2 wins from 2 starts for Warren Eakins, down to take the checkered flag from General John Day. And we're just waiting on the minor place getters to come through now. Jack Berry in second, followed through, it looks like John Davidson will take third, and Mike O'Donnell fourth. But no doubting the race winner did it easy, had no problems whatsoever out in front. Warren Eakins driving car number 45. The winner of heat number 8, just repeating the placings, Jack Berry second, and coming in third was John Davidson, followed by Mike O'Donnell. As we watch Trevor Green, he's still very obviously very upset, and now he's talking to Bill Cato there, as also in attendance is Peter Holland. But Trevor Green very upset.
Peter, what actually will you be looking for from the cars and the drivers, and actually what is your job as far as running the title is concerned?
Dennis, as the ASCC adjudicator, I suppose it boils down to the fact that if any problems arise throughout the whole spectrum of the championship, it comes back to me to adjudicate on machinery problems, driver problems, whilst the chief steward has control of the actual racing event. The whole spectrum of the thing comes back to the ASCC. The National Championship is actually controlled by the ASCC. It's the only race that we do control. And what we do, we have a member body, which is one from each state, one delegate from each state, plus the adjudicator. And if, per se, the steward can't handle a particular problem, well then of course it comes back to us as a body to then sort out the problems.
And officials from the Australian Speedcar Control Council have confirmed that 54 nominations for the Australian Championship. And And certainly you look at the overall standard of equipment, the standard of driving we've seen in these earlier heats so far, I think we're in for a great title. Man on the pole position for heat number 9, Eric Smith from Victoria, sharing the front row, car number 55, and the driver is Grant Coombe from South Australia. Second row, Eric Mitchell in 24, and Tom Watson Jr. driving, Neville Lance on the second row, that is, in car number 8. As away we go in heat number 9, and best of again was Smith, but Neville Lance right around the outside, and Eric Mitchell through on the inside, but it's Neville Lance who gets the better of it and leads down into turn number 3 on the first occasion. Back there in second spot is Mitchell, followed through by Smith, and now Tom Watson Jr. in car 76 also running into contention. Terry King there up on the high line, Baxter through on the inside, King coming again on the outside, but certainly plenty of hectic dicing in the opening laps to heat number 9. Oh, and Terry King drops it in turn number 4. Well, between 3 and 4, actually, Clive Baxter, Grant Coombe and Trevor Green, the drivers involved there. And Terry King doing a bit of inspecting there, the front end of car number 16. Grant Coombe, Clive Baxter, Trevor Green getting out of the car, in fact. Ready to go again with the continuation of heat number 9. Neville Lance to lead them away. Mitchell in second spot, followed by Smith in third position. Tom Watson Jr. there in car number 76, currently holding down fourth position on the racetrack. There's Mitchell driving car 24, a man who's been around speed car racing for quite a few years, going right back to the days when he drove for the Mulcahy brothers, the famous ex-Jimmy Davies, Bill Good, Offenhauser, as Mike O'Donnell, it looks like, drops it in turn number 1, bringing on the yellow lights once again. Crash crew attendants quickly on the scene to remove Mike O'Donnell from the racetrack. Okay, once again, the continuation of heat 9 and Neville Lance. Now Tom Watson, Neville Lance, the race leader, Tom Watson Jr. picking up a position there on Smith, and that should put him up into something like third position in actual fact. Yes, and as we were saying earlier about Eric Mitchell, a man who well versed in speed car competition over a number of years, and of course one of the most famous Offenhausers from the era of the 60s into the 70s in actual fact, of course, was the ex-Jimmy Davies Mulcahy Offenhauser, which Eric Mitchell, the man on screen just then, drove, and that was in the heyday of speed car racing, when there was something like 8 or 9 Offenhausers at the Brisbane Exhibition Ground each and every Saturday night. Brisbane known as the Offie capital of Australian speed car racing in those days, and of course Eric Mitchell, a star right through into the 70s, driving some fine speed car equipment as he holds down second position in this heat. Tom Watson Jr. there in third position, but Neville Lance well clear, a big lead, and heading for what I would think is a comfortable win in heat number 9. Eric Mitchell blowing a little smoke in actual fact, and Tom Watson closing up on Mitchell. Mitchell in 24, Watson in 76. Mitchell lifting the inside and front wheel down the back stretch into turn number 3, and Watson not giving up the chase, really putting the pressure now, applying the pressure to Mitchell in 24 as they move down the back straightaway. Neville Lance has bolted. We keep our attention on Mitchell in 24, and now Watson tucking up tight on the inside there to try and get through on the inside. Mitchell closes the gap, but Watson coming again, and Watson closing right up again in turn number 1, sets himself a run down on the inside, but Mitchell has it covered at this stage, coming through once again, coming through on the inside. This time Watson gets right up on the inside of Mitchell. Mitchell fighting back on the outside, but you'll find Mitchell now going through into second position, and it's 1-2 for the West Aussies. Neville Lance, the race leader. Tom Watson Jr. in second position. Eric Mitchell back in third. That's the top trio of heat number 9. Not too many laps remaining for Neville Lance, who is going down virtually the back straightaway as I speak. Here he is coming off turn number 4 to complete another lap, and as I say, only a few laps remaining in this heat, and Neville Lance also one of the formed drivers in the opening night of the Australian Championship, the opening rounds of heats in the Australian Speed Car Championship, which is proudly sponsored by Mitsubishi Motors, as Neville Lance comes down to complete another lap. Only 2 circuits of the Northline Speedway remaining for Neville Lance, doing a beautiful job. lines up into the third turn, and 1 lap remaining. There's Smith on screen. Clive Baxter slowing noticeably there as Lance comes down the main straight on his setting off on his final lap. Comes through, holds down a neat line onto the back straight away, half a lap away from the checkered flag. Neville Lance, Mitchell in third spot there, and Tom Watson Jr. of course still holding down second position as Neville Lance goes on to take the checkered flag. Just waiting on the rest of the field to a somewhat depleted field as Tom Watson Jr. comes across the line to take second, and here's Eric Mitchell with smoke coming from his race car across the line as the official third place getter in heat number 9, but no doubting the race winner. There he is on screen. Neville Lance led virtually from the outset, a fine performance too, and that's some more points for Neville Lance, and he is also starting to show prominence as one of the leaders in the Australian Speedcar Championship qualifying heats. Neville Lance from Western Australia, a good performance. Just repeating the placings, Tom Watson Jr. second, and Eric Mitchell was officially placed third. Bob Holt on the pole position for heat number 10, Rob Winstanley on the outside. Second row, Phil Herreen and Rod Bowen. John Davidson and Jack Berry holding down the third row, and Wayne Pearce from Victoria at the tail of the field. So Bob Holt from the pole position, and car number 43, Rob Winstanley representing Victoria on the outside of that front row starting position. Should be a good race, this one. Certainly Bob Holt knows his way around the Northline Speedway. One of the stars of speedcar racing here in Darwin. Set to go in heat number 10. And Bob Holt makes the best of the start and goes straight to the lead. Rod Bowen there. Oh, Rod Bowen gets a little out of shape, certainly drifts a little high. Phil Herreen quickly into stride. He's making the best of it and right up into second position already. John Davidson there as Rod Bowen washes out badly once again, and this allows Davidson to go through on the inside. Jack Berry there too as Bowen certainly lifting that inside front wheel, but this is there's Phil Herreen. Phil Herreen currently holding down second position. Race leader is Bob Holt. Herreen in second position as they come down to complete one more lap here at the Northline Speedway. This is heat number 10 of the first night of heats of the Australian Speedcar Championship, brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors. Bob Holt, the race leader. Phil Herreen running in second position. Davidson in third at this stage, and they in turn were tailed out by Rod Bowen. Next one through was Jack Berry. And Rod Bowen driving the fully imported American Stanton car, and of course that particular race car was driven to victory by Phil March in the 1986 Australian Speedcar Championship. So it's certainly got a proven race record, and the car is owned by Sydney's Gary Crew. And of course Rod Bowen, keen to run in the Australian Speedcar Championship here in Darwin, decided to take the drive of car number 39, and he's currently placed fourth on the racetrack as we move in now on this battle for the race lead. But Bob Holt still has the advantage there over Phil Herreen, running in second position. Bob Holt from the Northern Territory leads down the main straightaway. Phil Herreen certainly not far behind. They've stretched right away from John Davidson there in third position, and Bowen the next one through. There's Bowen on screen at the present time. Down the back straightaway, still Davidson in third and Bowen in fourth. But Bob Holt leading, and still kept on the job by Phil Herreen, but certainly Holt seems to have everything under control at this stage, down into the bottom turn, and Herreen right there with him though, but it's still Holt leading, and Herreen just trying to get that gap, narrowing that gap a little more in turn number one. And Phil Herreen, a man whose racing career traces back to the days of the famous Rowley Park Speedway in Adelaide, and a man who drove hot rods or super modifieds in those earlier years, as they were known at the Rowley Park Speedway, and a man who competed against some very notable drivers in hot rod super modified racing at Rowley Park Speedway before moving into the midgets, and in actual fact seems to drop right off the pace there as I speak, with 2 laps remaining for Bob Holt. Don't know what happened to Phil Herreen on that occasion, but Bob Holt all of a sudden has quite a handy advantage over Phil Herreen. There's Holt on screen in this coverage brought to you by Carrick Video, the leaders in motorsport presentation in Australia, as we watch Bob Holt going into turn number 1, now attempting to put a lap on Rob Winstanley, and does so easily without any problems whatsoever, down into the third turn, coming off turn number 4, and Bob Holt setting himself for a comfortable win in heat number 10. Next across the line was Phil Herreen, followed by Johnny Davidson. Rod Bowen, the next one through, as we just wait on the remainder of the cars. Jack Berry and Rob Winstanley also going across the finish line. And earlier on, I caught up with Rod Bowen, who of course is a former national compact speed car champion, and I asked him, was there a basic difference between driving a compact and a midget?
Well, basically, there's not a great deal of difference. There is a little bit more power in these cars. I guess if someone wanted to work out what the difference between a compact and a sprint car was, well, these fit the bill perfectly. But no, these go well, and this car goes exceptionally well. It's got a good past record. It did win the 86 title. I hope it can produce the goods again tonight. Or, well, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. But basically, there's not a big difference between the compacts, but I do enjoy running the midgets.
Now, Rod, do you feel there will be a disadvantage? If there is a disadvantage, what will it be, never having driven in previously an Australian Speed Car Championship?
I think basically, I guess I can't make too many excuses about not driving the car, because as I just said, they're they're basically the same as a compact. But I think if there's any disadvantage, it's probably not mixing it with these guys here. And I guess, you know, a lot of guys here are on even par, because let's face it, everyone from around the globe, or everyone from around Australia rather, has come here tonight, and we're all in the same basket. So we'll just, you know, take it as it comes.
Pretty tough competition, Rod.
Oh, geez, yeah. Look, I look around and I see the guys that, you know, blokes I used to cheer for when I was a kid, and look, they still got it, and there's a lot of up-and-coming young stars from down south, over in Western Australia. We've got a few hot shots from New South Wales and Queensland. Like, it's going to be tough, don't worry about that. We'll know we've been in the race, and if I can just qualify, I'll be wrapped. If we win, it'll be a bonus.
Rod, why do you diversify your racing so much, from compacts to sprint cars and speed cars? Is it just your love of racing, or is it something else?
It is mainly just my love of racing. I think, you know, it really is just my love of racing. I just love to be part of it. Every time I go to a national title, I sit there in the grandstand and I watch, and I think, why aren't I there? And I kick myself for not having a car. This year it's all come good for me, and honestly, I don't think I could watch another national title without taking part.
No doubt, Rod, you'll be hoping this car is a lucky omen, because this is the car that Johnny Pearson used to win the Australian Speed Car Grand Prix last April at the Sydney Showground.
Yeah, that's right. He went really well in it. The car is suited to a slick type track, which I believe this track does go like. And although I'm not really a slick track driver, I've had a couple of runs in the car on slick tracks. It has suited me, you know. As I say, I'll take it as it comes. I just hope it can produce the goods like it did in 86, and if it does, well, naturally I'll be wrapped, and who knows, we might have to go out and buy a midget.
Best of luck, Rod Bowen.
Thanks very much, Dennis. Thank you.
Heat number 11 now coming your way in this Carrick Video coverage of the Australian Speed Car Championship. This is the first night of heats, and on the pole position for heat number 11 is Wayne Cover from Western Australia. Sharing that front row is Tom Watson Sr., former national champion, driving car number 75. Inside of the second row is Craig Power from Victoria. Outside second row, Warren Eakins. Of course, plenty of interest centres around Warren Eakins. 2 starts so far and 2 very, very impressive wins. Also in this heat is Aaron Benny and Graham Pardon. David Gross. Should be a good heat, this one. Lights turn to green and Wayne Cover makes the best of the start. However, Tom Watson Sr. comes around the outside there to take over the front running on the first occasion down the back straightaway, relegating Wayne Cover into second position. Warren Eakins tucked in neatly there in third position. Coming down the main straightaway, Craig Power and Peter Kittle driving car number 14. Kittle gets the advantage on Craig Power and gets a little sideways in turn number 1. Craig Power goes around the outside. Aaron Benny giving chase to David Gross there, as we centre our attention now on the 2 front running cars, Tom Watson Sr. and Warren Eakins now looking for a way around the outside. Couldn't quite pull it off on that occasion. Now ducks down onto the inside, going down the back straightaway, and takes over the front running as they line up onto the bottom corner. So Warren Eakins, now the new race leader from Tom Watson Senior. Back there in third position is Wayne Cover as they run down into turn number 1. And Warren Eakins now starting to move away from Tom Watson Senior. Wayne Cover the next one through. Craig Power also there, followed through by Aaron Benny. That's the running order at this stage. But now look at the advantage already that Warren Eakins is beginning to open up over Tom Watson Senior. And certainly Warren Eakins showing out as one of the formed drivers in the Australian Speedcar Championship heats as we centre our attention now on Tom Watson Senior. He's in second position and Wayne Cover back there in third. And I guess when you look at the fields for the Australian Speedcar Championship heats and the generous business houses that have supported the running of the Australian Speedcar Championship, we talk of course of companies like Mitsubishi Motors, Radio 8DN, Wins, CCA Snack Foods, T&T Darwin Express, Australian Airlines, Adrian Travel, Jet Set Tours, Pan Pacific Hotels, Singapore Airlines, City Centre Shopping, Tube Makers Metal Centre, Marambina Tourist Resort and Budget Homes, all sponsors of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship here in Darwin as we zoom in now on Peter Kittle in car number 14. But certainly the support, the business houses that have supported the running of the Australian Championship, typifying the great interest here in the Northern Territory that speedcar racing commands. And certainly we're seeing some great heats tonight. And the man who's leading this particular heat, Warren Eakins, certainly he is one of the drivers who really, I think at this stage, is starting to stamp his authority on these early heats. Still plenty of racing still to go, however, but Warren Eakins certainly showing out as one of the contenders, one of the real contenders for the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship as we watch Tom Watson Senior and Wayne Cover, the two West Aussies holding down second and third respectively, as we move in now on Aaron Benny and Peter Kittle. Aaron Benny moving into that fourth, holding down that fourth place ahead of Peter Kittle there, and Aaron Benny driving one of the new Beast race cars, the American Beast race car there, and he's got plenty of work to do in this heat, holding off Peter Kittle. Peter Kittle, of course, from the Northern Territory and doing a fine job in this particular heat, currently placed 5th on the racetrack, but there's no doubting the race leader. There he is, and Warren Eakins heading for another win. 3 consecutive wins going out to Warren Eakins, officially placed second, just waiting on the rest of the field to come across the finish line, but it'll be Tom Watson Senior taking second position. Coming in third was Wayne Cover. They in turn were followed by Aaron Benny, Peter Kittle, David Gross and Gavin Lear. That's the top running order in the Australian Speedcar Championship, heat number 11. And certainly the Northern Territory looking very strong here in Darwin in the Australian title heats.
Father and son combination at this year's Australian Speedcar Championship at the Northline Speedway in Darwin is Tom Watson Senior and Junior. Starting firstly with you, Tom, you are running a brand new car at the Australian title, but I understand you've already had an interesting diversion on the way to Darwin to put in an engine testing session.
Yes, Dennis, we're driving up being as tourists, we were, and we hadn't actually started the car. We finished working on it just before we came up. Going past a speedway in Broome, and it was going to be on, so we went in and asked permission, and we started up there, and it was very successful.
Now it's a Sesco powered car, and of course you two guys are pretty unique in as much as you build your own cars.
Yeah, we've been working day and night, Dennis, just to try and get them ready for this race, and we try to get everything down to the last 16th of an inch, just exactly the same, so we can swap it at any time if any problems happen.
Now, young Tom, like how many seasons now, Tom, have you been running speed cars?
Well, now I think it's the third or fourth season.
He's still 19, so...
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being the first teenager to win the title, but youngest guy ever to do it's 22. This is my last chance while I'm a teenager. So.
Well, you went pretty well at Rockhampton. That was a pretty impressive performance up there.
Yeah, I was pretty happy, I suppose, with the performance at Rockhampton, qualifying second highest point scorer, and had to jump in the spare car for the national title, the actual feature race, and it jumped out of gear, so bent torque tube put us out, so that's, you win some, you lose some, I suppose.
And Tom, how do you feel about your prospects for another win? Because you won the title several years ago, 1987 at Claremont Speedway.
Yes, I've been doing nothing since. I've been trying to get Tom's car up to scratch. Now Tom's on his own, I'm going to whip him. So the car is actually identical to Tom's, so with a bit of luck we'll be able to get it sorted out very quickly, and I want to beat him.
Well, you've just raised a very interesting point actually. Like, If you two guys are running for the title, you wouldn't consider him your son. If you can get past him, you obviously will. You won't give him any leeway at all.
Well, I try not to, and I'm saying I'm going to beat him. And I said, Tom, if you want to get up there, I'm going to give you a good crack.
How do you feel about that, Tom?
Yeah, he's just another number on the racetrack. You've got to get past. That's the only thing.
Heat number 12, and the man on the pole position, Mark Gilbert, sharing the outside of the front row is Jeff Blake in the Gambler High Bar midget, but the yellow light's still on. And this will give us a chance to look at the other starters in the race. Car number 42 in position 3 is Terry Holland. Darren Power driving car number 59 for Power Racing on the outside of the second row. Also in this race, of course, is Graham Jones, and he's tucked in there on the third row. So just about set for a start this time, and it looks like Jeff Blake will get the better of the start, yes, and go straight into the race lead. One up high against the wall there is car number 69, and that's Chaz Madden from South Australia. But here's Mark Gilbert giving chase to race leader. There's Mark Gilbert on screen at the present time, second position in chase to Jeff Blake, the race leader, and now Graham Jones lining up on the low line to get underneath car number 78, driven by South Australian Mark Gilbert. And certainly Graham Jones has not had a trouble-free run in the earlier heats, a few problems, and he'll be looking to pick up some of those points that he really did lose earlier on. And of course he looks set here to at least pick up a maybe a second or a third as he works away on the inside of Mark Gilbert. Jones tucking down really low as they come down the main straightaway, but to Mark Gilbert's credit, fighting through again on the outside, and this is certainly a great scrap here for second and third, and Mark Gilbert coming again down the back straight, and so too is Graham Jones. Tucks it in hard underneath Mark Gilbert and takes over second running. A good drive there by Graham Jones, and now he sets off after race leader Jeff Blake. There's Jeff Blake just going out of the camera, but here's Graham Jones working hard down the back straightaway and trying to reel in that distance on Jeff Blake. Jeff Blake doing a beautiful job out in front, but here's Jones on screen down the main straightaway to complete another lap. And Jeff Blake, though, not to be denied, there he is. There's the gap between first and second as we close in now on Jeff Blake, driving car number 51. And Jeff Blake has had a good drive in this heat. Graham Jones working hard and really trying to close that gap as I speak on Jeff Blake. But Jeff Blake knows the Northern Territory circuit. This is his home base for midget racing at the Northline Speedway. And Jeff Blake keeping right down on that pole line as he comes off turn 4. And here's, as the track goes slick now, we notice the track just a little slick on the pole line there. And certainly working to Graham Jones now as we move back to Jeff Blake. And Jeff Blake setting a comfortable advantage still over Graham Jones. Looking further back through the field, Mark Gilbert still in third position, and certainly he's running steadily and doesn't look to have any problems holding down that third position. But here's Jeff Blake on screen in the Carrick video coverage as we watch him come down the main straightaway, coming off turn number 4. And I think Graham Jones really has started to close that gap, yes. Certainly the distance now between the two cars is being reduced by a hard driving national champion, Graham Jones from Perth, Western Australia. As the tyres come off the, as the cars come off the main straight, I should say. 2 laps remaining, 2 laps to go in heat number 12. And Graham Jones now trying to get just that little closer. But boy, Jeff Blake, you can't take anything away from him in this heat. Looks like some lap traffic up ahead. This could make life interesting, certainly, as the one lap flag coming out now. As and Blake. And one going, and Graham Jones going through on the outside. Well, bad luck indeed. The very last lap for Jeff Blake. Boy, oh boy, right out of racing luck on the final circuit of the Northline Speedway. And Graham Jones will go on and take the win. Would you believe it? Jeff Blake now in second position and Mark Gilbert across the line in third placing. But the man who really certainly deserved to win that heat, and he'll have to settle for second placing, was Jeff Blake. But there's the winner on screen, and no denying the winner, Graham Jones. A good performance indeed.
Well, one driver making his second appearance in the Australian Speedcar Championship is Northern Territory's John Thompson. John, you run at Alice Springs and, of course, at Northline. How do you feel against this calibre of competition? Pretty tough lineup of cars and drivers.
It is, Dennis. Yeah, it's pretty hard. We've had a bit of a run at Easter down in Alice. We had a few drivers up from Adelaide and some of the top drivers from Northline here down, and we acquitted ourselves quite well with the machinery we've got. It's pretty hard, though, when you're running against the top dollar stuff, but we enjoy it and we're out here for a bit of fun, and if we can pick up a qualifying place, we're quite happy.
Yeah, now you do a lot of work behind the scenes as far as Northern Territory, Alice Springs in speedcar racing. Obviously you're very devoted to speedcar racing, not only on the racetrack but a lot of administrative work behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm the president of the local Alice Springs Speedcar Sprint Car Club and do a lot of that sort of thing, you know, chasing up licences and registrations, all the behind the scenes stuff. And I think Speedway's in the blood. The old man used to race years ago at Tracy Speedway in Melbourne, and
very famous racetrack.
Yeah, and he had a bit of success. He was off a handicap most of the time, and I sort of, like I say, in the blood, and enjoy it very much.
Into the round 4 series of heats at Northline Speedway, and of course the Mitsubishi cars there preparing, kindly donated by Mitsubishi Motors, chief sponsor of the Australian title. And away they go in heat number 13. Bit of a jumble start, that one, and certainly the yellow lights out. The officials weren't happy with the start. Gavin Lear on the pole position. Notice there too Gary Dillon in position number 3. Rod Bowen also there. Mike Figlimeni also in this particular heat as we wait. Wayne Pearce looks like on the outside of the front row. Car number 13. Just about set for a start this time, and Gavin Lear gets the best of the start, but Gary Dillon also moving forward very quickly. Rod Bowen gets sideways there. This allows Mike Figlimeni through on the inside of Bowen. Further at the top of the field, Neville Lance making a big charge, as is Gary Dillon. Oh, and Mike Figlimeni up and over there, just caught the tail end of that accident. There's Mike Figlimeni in the cockpit. He's obviously quite okay moving around in the cockpit of the 34 race car. Now preparing to get out of car number 34. Obviously, as you can see on screen, Mike Figlimeni quite okay, but certainly a very, very spectacular crash there in the opening lap of heat number 14. And now officials just lifting the car off the safety fence there, and the ambulance won't be required. The crash crew, Aaron Benny there, a bit of inspecting on his car by his crew, but the car doesn't look really too badly damaged in actual fact. And we'll see if we can take another look at this from a different camera angle from Carrick Video. Here it is now, and you can see Wayne Pearce and Mike Figlimeni. The car digs in and away he goes on a wild series of rolls. Trying to just look at a slow motion replay now. Yes, the car starts to bicycle and spins around in the air, digs in, and away goes Mike Figlimeni straight over the top. Rod Bowen going through there, and then Smith also too, and Aaron Benny now trying to take evasive action as the 34 car comes straight down. Thank goodness for roll cages, straight down cockpit first, and the car finishing up, coming to rest on the top of the safety fence there. Okay, set to go once again. Gavin Lear in car number 73 to lead them away with Rod Bowen on the outside, and Rod Bowen takes full advantage of that up front starting position there and is the leader. Neville Lance, however, is the charger in car number 8, setting himself now for a dive through on the inside of Rod Bowen, but Rod Bowen and Neville Lance, these are the two front runners. Next through is car number 73, driven by Gavin Lear, but there's Neville Lance and gets through on the inside, just gives Rod Bowen just a slight touch as he goes through there into the lead, but Rod Bowen coming again strongly, drifts off line a little bit, and this allows Aaron Benny to close that gap up onto Rod Bowen. Rod Bowen driving the American Stanton Midget, the car that Phil March used to win the 1986 Australian Championship. There's Rod Bowen, former national compact speed car champion, and trying his hand in midget competition here in Darwin. And Gary Dillon also up there too, trying to get around Aaron Benny in car number 32. Bowen on screen and looking through at the top of the field here is still certainly the driver that really is the man who's scored some big points tonight, and that's Neville Lance as we zoom in close there on Aaron Benny driving car number 32, the new Beast chassis, the chassis that in the United States is certainly winning quite a few races in 1990 midget competition throughout America. And Aaron, one of the first Australian drivers to use the Beast, and certainly in the earlier period of time he's had his problems with that car, but getting it sorted out. There's Rod Bowen, and of course Rod Bowen driving the car that earlier this year American Johnny Pearson used to win the very prestigious Australian Speedcar Grand Prix, which was held before a capacity crowd at the Sydney Showground. That was last April, and of course that meeting too was covered by Carrick Video. And one thing too that I must mention with the officials, the Australian Speedcar Control Council official, is the fact that several race cars with a clash of numbers have decided that some of the number changes had to be made, so for the benefit of the spectators, that we didn't have a clash of race numbers with several cars appearing on the racetrack at the same time with the same number. So full marks to the Australian Speedcar Control Council for their forward thinking in the fact that all cars, some drivers of course have had to change their more regular race numbers to different numbers, as in case point Aaron Benny here in Darwin driving with car number 32 on the tail of the Beast machine. So full marks to the people responsible for making that decision, and certainly to benefit the spectators. Not too many more laps remaining in heat number 13. Neville Lance still the leader. Rod Bowen in second position, Aaron Benny third, Gary Dillon there right on the tail of Aaron Benny in fourth position. 1 lap remaining now for Neville Lance. There's Gary Dillon going up high, but Neville Lance, there he is on the back straight, lining up into turn number 3 and heading now for the checkered flag, and a very good win in heat number 13. A comfortable victory to Neville Lance. You'll find Rod Bowen second, Aaron Benny third, Gary Dillon going across the line in fourth position, and coming in fifth spot was Gavin Lear. But there's the winner, and a good win too to Neville Lance, and certainly accumulating a lot of points here in the opening series of heats. And of course Aaron Benny is one driver who, since we last saw in Rockhampton, has been over to the United States prior to the Australian title this year.
And Aaron, quite a different car than the one you ran at Rockhampton.
Yeah, that's right. We had a trip over to America after our last try at the title, and we decided we'd try something. I wish we'd had a bit more time with it, but the Beast will do the job.
Just tell us a little about the car. Where is it different from the car you ran in Rockhampton?
Well, the basic thing with the Beast is there's not many right angles in the frame. It's a lot lighter. The easiest way to put it is most speed cars, modern speed cars, you could cut the roll cage off and they'd still run. With our car, if you cut the roll cage off, it'd fall in half. All of the car is used to help the chassis.
Still in the round 4 series of heats. Heat number 14 on screen at the present time. Terry King in car number 16, a starter, as is Bob Holt on the outside of the front row. Also Jeff Blake driving car number 51. And a good field this one. On the pole position there is the driver of car number 69, Chaz Madden from South Australia. As we get set to run the 12 laps of heat number 14, and Bob Holt best to begin on the outside, followed quickly through by Jeff Blake, and Bob Holt goes to a lead, and one spinning there is Graham Parton, bringing on the caution, the yellow lights coming on. First lap of heat number 14. Now the crash crew attendants quickly on the scene there to get Graham Parton facing the right way and ready to go again in the restart for heat number 14. Set to go, Chaz Madden, 69 from South Australia, the pole man. Bob Holt and Terry King there. Problems there, had a tyre there courtesy of somebody else, and Terry King pulls to the infield, as does Stephen Graham. There's Terry King, who had shown up well in the very early heats and then had a few problems in another heat, but this is going to put him out of contention even more, unfortunately. Set to go once again, and Madden leads them down, but it's Bob Holt who gets the best of it on the outside, and the two Northern Territory drivers running 1-2 on the first occasion. Bob Holt leading, Jeff Blake there in second position, and Tom Watson Senior also in this, Tom Watson Junior in car number 76 as they run down the main straightaway, but still Bob Holt the race leader. There is Grant Coombe from South Australia, the South Australian entrant, also there too, as we watch Stephen Graham trying to get through on the inside of Chas Madden. But the man out in front, doing it nicely out in front, in fact, is Bob Holt. One striking problems also there too as Stephen Graham goes through, and one up against the fence. Looks like it might be Chas Madden just trying to pick up that car as Tom Watson Jr. goes through. But further on, down the back straightaway, field strung out right around the circuit in these early laps of heat number 14, and the race leader is Bob Holt as he goes down to complete another lap. Going through there too is Chas Madden. There's Holt on screen, and he's well clear of Jeff Blake at this stage. Seems to be a few problems around the racetrack in this one, yes, and there it is. And it's Chas Madden, the driver, bringing on the yellow lights. And we zoom in on Chas Madden. You notice the roller he uses there on the front of his helmet to keep clear vision. But Graham Jones has a more updated version.
Now, Graham, of course, we're talking about technical advancements in speed car racing, but there's a few changes also in the area of visors and helmets. Perhaps you could just explain to the viewers what exactly you use a mud eater.
Okay, Dennis, now this actual unit has actually been around for a couple of seasons now, but like a lot of new developments to start with, they were very unreliable. There's a motor on this side of the visor which pulls a roll, if they can see on this side here, which drags it across, which gives you clear vision all the time. But the motors were unreliable and the gears used to strip, but now they've perfected that. They're much more reliable, and if you look around the pits tonight, you'll see a lot of the guys using them.
And what's the frequency of its action forward and back?
No, it only travels one way, and it's battery operated from in the cockpit, and you have a button on the steering wheel, and I'd say like tonight we run, say, 3 heats, that will be the end of a roll.
And some interesting comment there from Graham Jones too, as we watch Bob Holt now taking up the pace once again, but he's still got the young Northern Territory driver Jeff Blake right in there behind him also, and Mark Gilbert up into 3rd position, and Stephen Graham in 4th spot. But Jeff Blake there, a little distance to make up on Bob Holt, and Bob Holt looking for a win in heat number 14. He's led virtually from the outset, and I guess it's fair to say that Bob Holt needs a few extra points here. We don't have an exact up-to-date score chart at this very time, but I think you'll find that Bob Holt is probably giving away a few points to the very prominent front runners like Warren Eakins and Graham Jones and Phil Herreen at this stage. So a good win will certainly put him right back into contention here as we watch event number 14, heat number 14 unfold. And of course it is the Australian Championship they're running for, and when we look back over the years, some of the winners of the Australian Speedcar Championship, certainly some of the best Australian drivers with an influx of fine American talent. Ray Revell, of course, was the first winner way back in 1947, as we continue to watch Jeff Blake there on screen, currently in 2nd position, and Mark Gilbert in 3rd. Then in 1948, the first of the Americans became involved with a win going out to Cal Nide. Frank Brewer also winning in 1949. But of course, then we saw that string of success from Ray Revell, 4 consecutive victories on the trot. 1950, 51, 52 and 53. Just watching Mark Gilbert here as we cut back now to car number 6, Bob Holt, and he's leading. Certainly not much between 2nd and 3rd at this stage, and still Jeff Blake leading. But of course, looking at some of the winners of the Australian Speedcar Championship, Andy McGavin, Bill Reynolds representing England is a winner of the title. Len Brock in 1958 won the Australian Championship. And then of course the late great Bob Tattersall won and stamped his authority with wins in 1960, 1962, and of course he in fact was one of the all-time great American speedcar drivers, and winning of course for the first time in 1960 driving the Sailors Offenhauser, as we watch the lead contingent with just 1 lap remaining. Bob Holt still leading and setting himself up for a good win. We might take a look in a later heat at some of the other winners of the Australian Speedcar Championship over the years as we watch Bob Holt coming off turn number 4 to go on and take the checkered flag. Jeff Blake held on for 2nd place there ahead of Mark Gilbert, and coming in 4th position, Stephen Graham. So just quickly repeating those placings again: Holt 1st, Blake 2nd, Gilbert 3rd and Graham 4th. Moving on to the next event on the program. This is heat number 15, and of course it's still the round 4 series of heats. And in this particular heat we see Phil Herreen back out on the racetrack once again, and Phil Herreen also one of the form setters, Eric Mitchell there in 24. Graham Jones, he's also performed well tonight. Had a few problems in one of the earlier heats, but generally pretty consistent. Graham Jones driving the Cosworth car from Kim Ledger's Rotomotion Engineering operation in Perth. Peter Kittle there in 14, representing the Northern Territory, and Darren Power there too. Heat number 15, 12 laps the race distance, and a pretty formidable front row. Wayne Cover on the pole, Phil Herreen on the outside of that front row position. And boy oh boy, Phil Herreen certainly setting a blistering pace tonight, and he'll certainly start one of the favourites for this heat, especially going from the front row there. John Thompson in 41 also in this heat, and Clive Baxter there too. Graham Jones and Eric Mitchell other contenders, but as expected, Phil Herreen goes straight to the lead on the first occasion, and Baxter getting sideways there too, and Graham Jones, Peter Kittle also in contention. There's Baxter up a little high, Graham Jones down low. One going high is John Thompson, but also there too is Eric Mitchell, as we look now at Graham Jones. Graham Jones in third position, Wayne Cover just ahead of him on the racetrack, and Graham Jones taking a high line. A beautiful outside pass by Graham Jones, gets right around the outside of Wayne Cover. Certainly some top driving tonight by the defending Australian Speed Car champion Graham Jones from Western Australia. But while all this is going on, Phil Herreen, the race leader, and already clear at this stage, and it's going to take a lot of running down by Graham Jones to get ahead of Phil Herreen as they come down the main straightaway. There's Graham Jones on camera at the present time, but you can see the distance between Herreen and Graham Jones, and I think at this stage, even though there's still quite a number of laps to go, but boy oh boy, Phil Herreen is going to prove very, very hard to beat from here on in. There's Phil Herreen driving car number 23, the ex-Stan Fox car, and Phil Herreen driving beautifully tonight as we watch Wayne Cover and Peter Kittle. But there's a good close-up shot of Phil Herreen as Graham Jones tries to narrow that advantage, and now Peter Kittle looking for a one through the low line, trying the low line on Wayne Cover further back in the field. But the top 4 is Phil Herreen, Graham Jones, Wayne Cover and Peter Kittle. Oh, a beautiful line there by Peter Kittle to move up one more placing. He's now in third position, and Wayne Cover back to fourth position in this race. This is heat number 14. There's the race leaders, the two front-running men at this stage, Phil Herreen driving 23 and Graham Jones in car number 1. And of course, as we were saying in that previous heat, the Australian Speed Car Championship, certainly one of the oldest events in Australian Speedway history, with a history going right back to 1947. And we were mentioning of some of the drivers that have won the title as we watch this lap car. This is John Thompson proving a bit of a handful for Phil Herreen. He gets through safely, and also too Graham Jones through on the inside neatly there. But it's still Phil Herreen leading from Graham Jones, followed by Peter Kittle and Wayne Cover. But looking at the list of winners over the years in this Australian Speed Car Championship, we look at some of the names and some of the great stars, certainly some of the finest Australian speed car driving talent we have ever seen. Guys like Johnny Stewart, who put together back-to-back wins, and then of course ultimately a hat-trick, one in 66 and 67 for his consecutive victories, and then of course in 1968 he took out the Australian Speed Car Championship. And it's still Phil Herreen leading, coming down to take the white flag, denoting just one lap remaining. Graham Jones right there in contention now as they set off on their final circuit. Still Phil Herreen leading, and Graham Jones right there down the back straight away. But I think you'll find that Phil Herreen will go on and win this one, coming off the final turn now to take the checkered flag. And Phil Herreen officially placed first. And coming in second was Graham Jones, just waiting for the third place getter now to come across the finishing line, which looks like it was Wayne Cover. Next one through was Peter Kittle, and that's how they finished. Phil Herreen first, Graham Jones second, Wayne Cover was placed third, and coming in fourth was Peter Kittle. But a good performance there from Phil Herreen, and he, by virtue of that victory, still maintains his position as one of the top point scorers from these preliminary heats. And a good effort by Phil Herreen. And just looking at the other scorers. Jones, of course, also in contention, and Wayne Cover picking up some good points in that one. Herreen, Jones and Cover, that was the order. Heat number 16 now, just about set for a start, and Jack Berry to lead them away. No start on this occasion. Also in this heat, Warren Eakins, David Gross, of course. Warren Eakins, the man unbeaten so far in heat race competition. Robbie Armstead, John Davidson. Good feel for this one, though. Robbie Armstead doesn't look like he's on the track. Trevor Green there in car 58, also in this event. As away they go in heat number 16, and Jack Berry leading there from David Gross. Round the outside goes John Davidson. Warren Eakins following him through, but it's still Jack Berry leading, and also there, just picking up Warren Eakins, trying to go for the outside run on John Davidson, and David Gross also. But Jack Berry, David Gross, John Davidson, and a high lining Warren Eakins right around the outside of Davidson, and now Gross to charge into second position. Boy, oh boy, Warren Eakins certainly running hot tonight at Northline Speedway. Now lining up Jack Berry, diving in hard down on the pole line there as they come down the back straightaway, and setting up an inside pass on Jack Berry. Jack Berry up mid-track, closes that gap, or attempts to. Warren Eakins tucking right in behind him, but I really do feel now Warren Eakins going down hard on the inside. Jack Berry not to be disgraced, certainly driving a beautiful race out in front. And now Warren Eakins coming again on the outside. Oh, beautiful pass by Eakins. Just did it actually ever so easily, really, and clears away. Boy, oh boy, Warren Eakins looks like he's heading for yet another victory here tonight. Warren Eakins, the man that is fast emerging, the driver that they all have to beat, Warren Eakins. There's David Grace, John Davidson also there too, but Warren Eakins now safely in command of this race. Heat number 16, Jack Berry second, and David Grace third. But certainly as the laps start to dwindle now, there's no doubting that Warren Eakins is still going to be sitting on a maximum after heat number 16. Oh, a touch of wheels there between Ron Glazebrook and Mike O'Donnell. O'Donnell going through on the inside of Glaze. Oh, and another thank you very much from Mike O'Donnell. Certainly Ron Glazebrook not having a comfortable run in this particular heat. Slows right down, drops right out of contention as Trevor Green went through on the inside of him there. But here comes Eakins now down the straight, through into turn number 1, holding a nice line through the turn, down the back section of the circuit, and so far in front now that you can put the glasses down on Warren Eakins as he holds that pole line, drifts into the mid-track position down the straight, lines up beautifully into turn number 1 as the rest of the field comes through, and it's still just checking there, it looks like David Gross and Jack Berry, but still Eakins so far out in front it doesn't matter in actual fact. There's second place getter Jack Berry, and he has second placing certainly untroubled in second placing. David Gross, John Davidson, the next one's through there too as they go down, and Mike O'Donnell of course, as the rest of the field complete the distance here. But Warren Eakins so far out in front that I reckon he could slow to a walk and still win this one. Mike O'Donnell having a bit of a go on the outside of Davidson there. Davidson shuts the gate. The track slick with 1 lap to go, down slick on that pole line. White flag out, denoting just 1 lap remaining for Warren Eakins. There's Ron Glazebrook still continuing on, and in fact, in actual fact, Warren Eakins now attempting to put a lap on Ron Glazebrook as Trevor Green up ahead of those too. But race winner Warren Eakins taking the checkered flag. Just looking around the circuit now to pick up the minor place getters as Glazebrook and Ron Glazebrook and Trevor Green have a bit of a stoush there in the and John Davison cops one from Mike O'Donnell as they go across the finishing line, and we'll pick up the placings. Jack Berry it was that was the second place man, and David Gross fill third position, John Davidson fourth, and Mike O'Donnell fifth. But as we've been saying, the man on screen, Warren Eakins, unbeaten so far tonight. Earlier we spoke with Jeff Pilgrim and we asked him if the standard of competition had become tougher over more recent years.
Oh yes, Dennis, for sure. The competition's a lot stronger now. There's been an advent of a lot of different engines, and of course with that and more competitors coming into the sport, the whole class lifts itself.
Well, of course, speaking of power plants, you've made a significant change from what you formerly ran.
Yes, Dennis, after 17 years we've changed over to a Nissan engine that they ran successfully in Group A 2 or 3 years ago now, except we ran ours in a fuel-injected state instead of having a turbocharger on it. And we ran it all last year at Claremont and we're very happy with the engine.
Jeff, it seems the West Australian Speedcar Drivers Association have some very good drivers in their ranks at the moment. Is it fair to say it's probably been the best for the last 25 years or so, this current era now?
Yeah, I'd definitely say that, Dennis. We've been sort of very lucky with a top crop of competitors over there. And I think it all stems back to the days of John Fenton, and John always had the best of everything, and it's gone on from there where all the other competitors have tried to emulate the same thing and bought the best of equipment available.
And there you can see the points after the first night of heats. Certainly the man everyone has to beat, Warren Eakins, a perfect score so far. And of course Phil Herreen, Graham Jones, Neville Lance, Tom Watson Sr. right up there in contention. Mike Figlimeni, despite his accident, certainly still in contention on 701 points, and of course following right down through there, Darren Power, Eric Mitchell, Robbie Armstead at the bottom on 127 points. Certainly one man dominant following his performance is point leader Warren Eakins, and we asked him was he happy with his performance last night.
We had a good run. Lucky we didn't tip it over in the first heat, but everything seemed to go our way all night. It was very lucky, very good.
Well, what's your match plan from here on in? How do you plan the strategy from here on in? You're obviously in the box seat as we approach the second and final night.
Yeah, perhaps I'm not really where I'd like to be. For the feature, I would have liked to start off 3 because you can just get the sit on the other competitors and not burn up tyres and try and increase the lead. What happened to Port Limburg last year and end up running out of tyres. If you get in position 3 where you can just camp off the pace and then just move up as Graham Jones did last year.
Well, this heat very important for Warren Eakins as we watch Jeff Blake being moved away. And Warren Eakins shooting for a maximum score on position number 1. Beside him, John Davidson, 2 Northern Territory cars. Mike O'Donnell there and Ron Glazebrook. Next row, Grant Coombe and Jeff Blake. And also there too, Bob Holders and Trevor Green, of course, as the pace starts to quicken, and away we go in heat number 17. And as expected, Warren Eakins goes straight to the lead. John Davidson there in second spot, and Grant Coombe driving car number 55 moving through on the inside there. But there's the race leader, Warren Eakins. Track just prepared for the start of racing tonight. Beautiful service here at the Northline Speedway, and Warren Eakins making the most of it. There's Bob Holt driving car number 6, Ron Glazebrook going through on the inside of Mike O'Donnell, followed through by Trevor Green. But certainly all the interest centering upon Warren Eakins as Bob Holt attempts to go through around the outside of Grant Coombe. Warren Eakins on camera down the back straightaway, heading for that maximum score in the heats towards a start in the 1990 running of the Australian Speedcar Championship as Bob Holt gets around Grant Coombe. And the rest of the field coming down the main straightaway here in Darwin. Certainly a beautiful circuit, the Northline Speedway in the Hidden Valley Motorsport Complex just outside of Darwin, and certainly the complex catering for a variety of motorsport activities. But the main interest here tonight is the running of the Australian Speedcar Championship final, set over a distance by the Australian Speedcar Control Council of 40 laps. There's John Davidson, and he's in second position at the present time. And one blowing a lot of smoke there, just trying to pick it up, Ron Glazebrook. Yes, Ron Glazebrook taking no further part in this heat. He's out of contention, and Warren Eakins continuing on his merry way down the main straight once again to reel off yet another lap. Car number 45, powered by a Cosworth, and Warren Eakins last night absolutely brilliant, absolutely superb, and he's picking up where he left off last night and heading now for what probably will be a maximum score in the qualifying heats. John Davidson still in a safe second position, and rounding out a 1, 2, 3 at the moment for the Northern Territory is Bob Holt there in third position. But boy oh boy, look at Warren Eakins really burning up the track tonight once again, heading off turn number 2 on the back straightaway. Beautiful line into turn 3. driving absolutely superbly. Coming off turn number 4, down into turn 1 once again, is now starting to get through these tail end cars. There's Mike O'Donnell, he passes, and really setting a blistering pace in actual fact. Just brilliant. Warren Eakins doing it so clearly out in front. And of course last night we were talking about some of the winners over the years of the Australian Speedcar Championship as we continue to watch Warren Eakins with just 1 lap to go. Well, we'll stay with Warren Eakins at this stage now that he's starting off on his final lap. There's John Davidson in 2nd position, also getting through these lap cars, but Warren Eakins is so far clear. He's coming up into turn number 3, well clear, a big break over John Davidson. It'll be a Northern Territory 1-2-3 finish, however, as Warren Eakins goes on to take the checkered flag from General John Day. John Davidson across the line in 2nd position and waiting on the yellow car driven by Bob Holt through in 3rd spot. So that was a good effort certainly by Warren Eakins. 5 starts and 5 wins. You can't do much better than that. Top point scorer from the qualifying heats towards the running of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship, brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors. There's Trevor Green on screen finishing out of a place, and certainly Trevor Green not really had a good run in this Australian title and had certainly plenty of problems. And we asked Trevor Green had he had any previous experience in racing before driving speed cars.
I rode junior motocross for 7 years, then going to senior motocross for 3. We won a couple state titles and 1 Australian titles in the juniors. And then we got a little bit sick of it and crashes and that sort of thing, and we decided to go to go-karts for a couple of years. Got up in A grade and started winning a heap of races and that, and decided to have a new challenge.
Now, you're the youngest driver to win the South Australian Speedcar title in Adelaide. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, we had a good night then. We won the last 4 features in a row in Adelaide, so finished us off on a good note.
And what is it with speedcar racing? Why did you choose speedcar racing to get into Speedway?
Well, everyone would like to run sprint cars, of course, but the dollar value, and plus they're not as competitive in Adelaide. They're only getting about 10, 12 cars turn up a night, but we're getting 35 midgets a night turn up. Competition's a lot better. There's more different things you can have with the speed cars, different motors, all different types of chassis, whereas the sprint cars are basically all the same thing.
Heat number 18 now sees Graham Jones, Phil Herreen, and of course Tom Watson Sr. Driving car number 75, Eric Mitchell there, Graham Parton, and Eric Smith in the car number 88. Also Aaron Benny out on the racetrack, driving car number 32. So this should be a good heat. Neville Lance and Clive Baxter there on screen to bring the field around to the start of heat number 18. And away they go. Pace starts to quicken down the main straightaway, and Neville Lance goes straight to the lead in the first corner. Through on the inside, Tom Watson Sr. and tailing out there is Clive Baxter. But Tom Watson Sr. and also Phil Herreen, and one right around the outside there is Graham Jones. And boy, haven't these two had a great scrap. Last night we saw some great battles between Phil Herreen and Graham Jones, and here they are hard at it once again, and Graham Jones has certainly got the better of Phil Herreen on this occasion. And look at Graham Jones highlining around the outside of Tom Watson and down the main straight. A top drive from Graham Jones in these earlier laps. And just harking back to last night's heats, in actual fact, Graham Jones was the new, set a new track record by his win in heat number 4 last night, and lowering that mark down to 3 minutes 10.84 seconds. So that was last night's efforts by Graham Jones, a record-breaking run in heat 4 last night. And here we're watching, targeting in now on Neville Lance, down onto the inside, and Graham Jones is really driving like a man possessed tonight. He's out there with a job to do. He obviously wants to retain that Australian Speedcar Championship, and making no bones about it in heat number 18 as he blasts through into the lead, leading Neville Lance. And it's a West Aussie 1-2-3 as we zoom in there on Tom Watson Sr. driving car number 75. There's Phil Herreen. As I say, certainly out of it in this one. Really, it's a West Aussie dominance Graham Jones, Neville Lance, Tom Watson Senior. They in turn were followed by Phil Herreen. Next one through is Aaron Benny. That's the top 5. There's Phil Herreen now working away on the inside of Tom Watson. Couldn't pull it off that time. Tom Watson holding a neat line through turn number 2. Heads down the back section of the circuit once again. Phil Herreen trying on the outside. Now looking for a way through once again. Tom Watson sticking to his guns. Now Herreen on the outside. Loses a bit of ground and Tom Watson skips clear once again. Great racing last night, and the continuation of heats tonight, also seeing some superb speed car action. Here's Herreen coming once again. Cars now strung out around the racetrack, but still no doubting the race winner, Graham Jones, looking to, as I say, retain that Australian Speed Car Championship amongst an illustrious list of winners over many years, and of course looking through the era of the late 60s as we watch Phil Herreen there, Blair Shepherd winner in 1969, making it the first of 2 consecutive victories for Queensland drivers. In 1970, Bob Morgan, that fine little speedster out of Brisbane in the WRM Performance Cars Offenhauser team, and Bob Morgan, a great driver in his heyday, driving for Blair Shepherd and Billy Moore. And of course Bob Morgan, winner of the 1970 championship. Then we move to 71, 72, Ronald Mackay and George Tatnall, 73, 74 winner, as we watch Graham Jones setting off on his final lap in heat number 18, heading for the checkered flag, down the back section, coming up to put a lap on a slower car there. There's a great infield shot of Graham Jones going under Graham Parton and will take the win. Graham Jones first in heat number 18. You'll find Neville Lance will take second. Tom Watson Senior in third in a great battle with Phil. I'm not so sure about that, but I think Tom Watson Senior certainly lasted long enough to get third placing from a fast finishing Phil Herreen. Next one across the line was Aaron Benny, and just trying to get a time on that if we possibly can. There's Graham Jones. A good effort. We'll try and get a time on that as soon as we can. But the race winner, Graham Jones. Heat number 19 set to run now, and best to begin was Wayne Cover. There's Stephen Graham. No start this time through. For heat number 19, on the pole position is Queensland driver Terry Holland in car number 42, and on the outside of the front row, Wayne Cover. Stephen Graham also there too. Darren Power in car number 59. On the outside of the second row, also John Thompson, Tom Watson Jr. in car 76, also in this one. And away they go in heat number 19, and best to begin is Wayne Cover. He leads out down the back stretch on the first occasion. Tom Watson Jr. making good forward progress there, over passes around the outside of Stephen Graham. Also going one going high there is John Thompson. On a bang of wheels, and Stephen Graham around sideways on the main straightaway. Caught up there in a traffic snarl, Stephen Graham in car number 83, bringing the yellow lights on in heat number 19, and just waiting on Stephen Graham to resume his position. Set to go once again, Terry Holland to bring them around for a start, but it's Wayne Cover who will almost certainly go to the lead. Yes, Wayne Cover the leader, Tom Watson and Stephen Graham also there too, Darren Power, but Stephen Graham up into third position, Terry Holland, and Stephen Graham now looking for a way around the outside of Holland. This allows Tom Watson Jr. to move up onto the inside. This is a good scrap for the minor placings in the early stages of heat number 19. Terry Holland in second position, Stephen Graham third, Tom Watson Jr. in fourth, followed by Jack Berry also there, coming for a high run around the outside. Couldn't pull it off on that occasion. Looks down the main straightaway, and still Berry up on the high line, but loses ground if anything. And Tom Watson Jr. certainly looking for a run around the outside. Ducks down to the inside now of Stephen Graham as they line up into turn number 3, and gets through onto the inside of Graham, picking up another placing as the field streams down the main straightaway once again. Also further back down the field is Rod Bowen. But there's Holland, and now being pressured by Tom Watson Jr. Tom Watson Jr. setting himself for a run through on the pole line, and Holland drifts up high, and this is what Tom Watson Jr. wanted, and Stephen Graham in all sorts of bother and spins off onto the infield. Certainly no racing luck whatsoever for young Stephen Graham here in Darwin, as we watch Rod Bowen go beautifully through on the inside of Darren Power, and there's Tom Watson Jr. followed through by Jack Berry. Holland up high. but Jack Berry now also running into, looks like third position. Oh, and Terry Holland, boy, in all sorts of bother there, gets right out of shape in turn number 1. But there's the race leader, Wayne Cover, doing a beautiful job, untroubled and doing it easily down the back section of the circuit. Wayne Cover comes down the front section of the Northline Speedway as the rest of the field. Tom Watson Jr. in second position, Jack Berry is third. They in turn were followed through by Rod Bowen and Gavin Lear and Darren Power. Terry Holland still sorting himself out, and now having a lap put on him by Wayne Cover. Wayne Cover goes through, setting off down the back straightaway once again into turn number 3. An easy run for Wayne Cover, and he scored some pretty good points. Actually, he's still in contention and certainly amongst the top 10 drivers who later in the program will go into the pole shuffle, and of course that then really determines the top 10 starting position. Open to the top 10 point scorers is the pole shuffle. It's virtually an elimination series, and once eliminated, that is the, and a banging of wheels there between Tom Watson Jr. and Terry Holland. But the pole shuffle really does determine the top 10 starters, the top 10 point scorers. And the man with the best performance in the pole shuffle gets the pole position, of course, as we watch Wayne Cover set off on his final lap. And the pole shuffle, a very exciting contest coming up a little bit later in tonight's action. But there's Wayne Cover going down to take the checkered flag, and he will take heat number 19. Tom Watson Jr. second, Jack Berry third, Rod Bowen will be fourth, and they in turn were followed through by Gavin Lear and Darren Power. Well, Stephen Graham has had his share of problems in his assault for this year's Australian Championship, and we asked him if he was happy with the car.
No, I know the car's right, but the biggest problem at the moment is me. I haven't had enough hard racing laps, or really any hard laps around here at all, and the last time I ran was at Easter time, so I'm a bit stale. So I'm looking forward tonight having a few runs and getting back dialed in.
What's your impressions of the Northline circuit?
Oh, it's a great complex. The track is very loose, not very tacky like what we're used to running in New South Wales, so I think it'll come down to a tyre choice in the final.
And this completes the 5th round of heats, the final heat, heat number 20. And on the pole position is Gary Dillon, former South Australian Speedcar champion, winner of the 1989-90 season Speedcar Masters. Another South Australian on the outside of the first row is Mark Gilbert. Also in this, Terry King, Mike Figlimeni in car number 34. Also in this race too, Peter Kittle in car number 14. And away they go in the final heat, heat number 20. And Peter Kittle makes a good showing in the first turn, but Dillon right around the outside into the lead on the back straight for the first occasion. There's Gary Dillon looking really good, working hard, that number 18 car really hard. Peter Kittle tucks in low, also going through there, one spinning to the infield there as the race continues on, and Smith at the tail of the field, as is car number 43 as they run down. Of course, 43 driven by Rob Winstanley from Victoria. There's Peter Kittle working really hard behind the wheel of that number 14 race car, giving chase to the race leader, the top driver from South Australian Speedcar racing over more recent years, and as I said, the current title holder in the inaugural 1989-90 season Speedcar Masters, and that of course is Gary Dillon. There's Mark Gilbert there, being pressed hard by Terry King, who dropped valuable points last night and won around sideways in turn number 3. And bringing on the yellow lights is David Gross from Queensland, the driver of car number 49. There he is on screen, David Gross bringing on the yellow lights, but certainly Gary Dillon looking really strong and driving extremely well out in front and leading from Mark Gilbert in this early stage. Set to go once again, Gary Dillon, the pacemaker, down the main straight. Peter Kittle in second position, and Peter Kittle certainly and Peter Kittle right up on the inside of Gary Dillon. He's certainly going to make Gary Dillon work hard in this heat. Heat number 20, full marks to Peter Kittle, driving a fine race. Mark Gilbert back there in third spot. They in turn were followed by Mike Figlimeni, just relegating Terry King back one position, but it's still Dillon leading from Kittle and Mark Gilbert, the top three runners. The South Australian, Gary Dillon, the race leader. And Kittle, Gilbert, and now Mike Figlimeni coming right into contention there. And Mike Figlimeni now into third position. Figlimeni, after last night and that spectacular crash he was involved in, the car obviously running beautifully tonight, and Figlimeni coming into strong contention, really charging hard down the main straightaway. It's still Dillon leading, however. Kittle second, Figlimeni, Gilbert and Terry King, the top five in this stage. Not too many laps remaining in heat number 20. Gary Dillon working hard behind the wheel of that number 18 race car there, crossed up sideways through the turn. Superb midget racing here at the Northline Speedway in Darwin. The laps unfold. Figlimeni goes high, loses ground on Peter Kittle. Peter Kittle trying desperately to close that gap on Gary Dillon, but Dillon lifting a wheel, hiking a wheel through the turn there, coming down the main straightaway, and Kittle there followed by Figlimeni, and the next one through is Mark Gilbert. Terry King also there in fifth position. But Gary Dillon showing a fair turn of speed in this one. Superbly prepared racetrack here in Darwin, the Northline Speedway. The track curator, full marks to the track curator. A beautiful race strip for the 2 nights of Speedcar racing as Mike Figlimeni charges through on the inside, picks up another placing on Peter Kittle, and now Figlimeni taking over second position. Mark Gilbert just at the back of the picture there, but Gary Dillon has a good break, plenty of distance between him and Mike Figlimeni, and Dillon looks as though he will certainly go on and win this one. It's still several laps still to run yet, however, not discounting the challenge, the big challenge coming from Mike Figlimeni, coming through from the tail of the field, but I think the laps will beat him. Only 2 laps remaining, and Gary Dillon looks to have this race safely parcelled up as he charges through. Coming up now to put a lap on car number 43, Rob Winstanley, coming up to take the white flag, denoting 1 lap remaining for Gary Dillon. Charges down into turn number 1. This has been a fine drive from Gary Dillon. Still Mike Figlimeni there in second position as they run down into turn number 3. And there's the race leader coming off turn number 4 to take the checkered flag, and it's Gary Dillon who will get the money. Mike Figlimeni coming home in second position. Tailing out in third was Mark Gilbert from South Australia. Next man across the line was Peter Kittle from the Northern Territory, and New South Wales Speedcar champion Terry King home in 5th position. Well, Mike Figlimeni had his share of ups and downs last night, and we spoke to him about last night's dramas earlier today.
We had a couple false restarts and got a bit anxious, and went through turn 1 okay, and come into turn 2, and the track was a bit slick, and I just went in too quick and slid up to this other car, and I didn't think it would hit very hard, but I just got hooked up in the wrong place, and next minute started going over and just hung on, closed my eyes.
We now move to the first repechage heat, and the last chance for these drivers out on the racetrack now to qualify through to the running of the Australian Speedcar Championship final. Peter Kittle there in car number 14, Gavin Lear in 73, Eric Smith in car number 88, Clive Baxter, Trevor Green having to do it from the repechage, and the last man is Wayne Collane driving car number 68. Only 2 drivers progressing through to the final as we go down to the start, and it's Peter Kittle that gets the best of the starters from Gavin Lear and Clive Baxter. Smith slowing, and Trevor Green trying to get around the outside of Smith there as we head down as the cars head down the back straightaway. And there's Gavin Lear on screen holding down second position at the moment, but the race leader after the completion of the first of 8 laps for this sudden death repechage race is Peter Kittle in car 14. These drivers will start the rear of the field from position number 21 and 22, 23 and 24 in the other repechage heat, where 2 drivers qualify through also. But there's Gavin Lear on screen, holding down second position, and Clive Baxter at the moment in third spot, and Trevor Green there. Wayne Collane also trying to get through on the inside. Certainly not been a happy title for Trevor Green, in all sorts of bother last night, and now he's right out of contention, it seems, in the Repechage. Certainly bad luck indeed for Trevor Green, but he's such a fine prospect. As we zoom in on Clive Baxter, I'm sure Trevor Green will get his chance at an Australian title in not too many more years' time. Peter Kittle still leading, Gavin Lear in second position, Clive Baxter and Wayne Collane. That's the top running orders, but the positions at the moment, the two most important positions in the field, are held down by Gavin Lear and the race leader Peter Kittle. Gavin Lear on the bubble at the moment, but doing a safe second position at this stage, lifting the wheel as he comes off turn number 4, and it's all up to Clive Baxter to try and move up into second position, as you just caught a glimpse there of Trevor Green on the infield and now officially out of the first Repechage race. Not too many more laps remaining. Peter Kittle, 2 to go in fact. 2 laps to go from Peter Kittle, and 2 laps away from a start in the Australian Speedcar Championship final. And Peter Kittle looking for position number 21 in the title field as the winner of the first Repechage heat. Peter Kittle leading, Gavin Lear still in second position with 1 lap remaining. Less than half a lap now remaining for Peter Kittle. Lining up into the third turn, safely negotiating turn number 4, coming down to take the checkered flag, and Peter Kittle progresses now through to the final of the Australian Speedcar Championship, as does second place man Gavin Lear, and Clive Baxter third. So Peter Kittle will take position number 21 in the field, and Gavin Lear will go from position number 22. The second Repechage now, and once again the top 2 finishers progress through to the championship final, and position number 1 held down by Eric Mitchell, and position 2 Graham Parton from New South Wales. David Gross on the inside of the second row. Looks like Rob Winstanley there on the outside of the second row. Car number 42, Terry Holland from Queensland, also in this race, as is Grant Coombe in car number 55 from South Australia. Okay, here we go, over 8 laps to decide who will progress through to the championship final and who can put their car on the trailer. And Graham Parton leads out over Terry Holland, and Graham Parton, the race leader, into the third turn on the first occasion. Washes out a little bit there. Still Eric Mitchell in second, David Gross third. 1 lap down, 7 remaining. 1 going up high there. Looks like David Gross. Further back, John Thompson there, and car number 42, Terry Holland. Oh, and Thompson and Holland in all sorts of bother there. But continuing on, in actual fact, as we cut back to the front runners, Eric Mitchell, 24, holding down second position at the moment, and certainly Eric Mitchell on the bubble at the moment, as David Gross gives him a bit of a working over, but Grant Coombe also coming into contention on the inside there of David Gross. There's Mitchell hiking the inside front wheel up off the racetrack, down the main straightaway. Grant Coombe, the next one through, and now we watch, just checking, yes, it's David Gross through on the outside there, and gets a little offline, drifts up high, and car number 43, driven by Rob Winstanley from Victoria, moving through on the inside once again. Grant Coombe on camera in car 55. Eric Mitchell there just a little bit ahead of him, and at the moment Graham Parton, there he is on screen, and race leader, and he's well clear. Eric Mitchell next, and Grant Coombe. Eric Mitchell, the man who's got to hold down that second position, but he's got plenty of pressure on him. David Gross once again goes right up to the top of the racetrack in turn number 1, but here's the man with all the pressure, and the pressure coming from Grant Coombe in 55. Only one of these can progress through with only 2 laps remaining, and Eric Mitchell, certainly the man on the bubble, and Grant Coombe trying to get into second position and a start in the championship final, and Eric Mitchell trying desperately to hold him out, and Coombe loses ground there. Mitchell gets away down the main straightaway, but Graham Parton, 1 lap remaining for Graham Parton. But, and Mitchell slowing, and Grant Coombe around the outside. Oh, bad luck for Eric Mitchell. He's lost all chance. He's gone, and Grant Coombe into second position. Graham Parton crosses the finishing line first. You'll find Grant Coombe will now take second, and hard luck man of the second Repechage, Eric Mitchell, through into third position, and now out of the championship final. And coming up next will be the pole shuffle, and this is open to the top point scorers, and by means of an elimination process determines the pole position, the man in position number 1 for the championship final. Here we go in heat. Well, the first pole shuffle, Bob Holt versus Wayne Cover from Western Australia. And the loser of this one will start in position 8, according to officials. We'll just try and clarify that, but it's Bob Holt through to the lead in the 2-lap screamer. Bob Holt, the race leader, down the back straightaway on the first occasion, opening up an advantage down into turn number 3. 1 lap remaining now as they come down the main straightaway. Wayne Cover coming with a charge, but it's still Bob Holt in command into the first turn, and Bob Holt setting himself now for a win in the first pole shuffle and eliminating Wayne Cover from Western Australia into the third turn. Coming now, completing the 2-lap distance, and Bob Holt will take the win, thus eliminating Wayne Cover. And according to our reckoning, Wayne Cover will now go from position 8. Bob Holt, the winner of the previous pole shuffle heat, going in against Tom Watson Sr. Away they go, and Bob Holt once again out in front in the first turn. Bob Holt leading former national champion Tom Watson Sr. And Bob Holt clear into the third turn. Driving beautifully tonight, Bob Holt, coming off turn number 4. 1 lap completed, 1 lap remaining for Bob Holt. Charges into turn number 1, throws the number 6 race car sideways, and I'd say even at this stage, he's got the second pole shuffle heat safely wrapped up into the third turn. Safely negotiating turn number 4, lifts an inside front wheel and comes down to take the checkered flag for 2 wins on the trot for Bob Holt. And now Tom Watson Sr. will go from position number 7. The man looking for the hat-trick in the pole shuffle so far. A Northern Territory contest, this one. Bob Holt and Johnny Davidson. And once again, boy oh boy, Bob Holt driving like a man possessed in these pole shuffle heats, and clears down the back straightaway, clears away in fact from John Davidson in the Battle of the Northern Territorians. 1 lap to go for Bob Holt. He's clear, and he's got this race safely in his keeping. Johnny Davidson not giving up the chase, however. Oh, drifts off line there. That's it, his race is run now, and Bob Holt going to what will be an effortless win in the third pole shuffle heat. Completes turn 4, comes down the main straight to take the checkered flag from General John Day, and so John Davidson now going from position number 6 in the final. Next heat, Bob Holt versus Neville Lance. Just about set to go, and Neville Lance gets the best of Bob Holt on this occasion, goes straight through into the lead. Bob Holt coming again on the inside, but it's Neville Lance from Western Australia leading down the back straightaway on the first occasion. Neville Lance lining up into the third turn. He's got a good advantage already, in fact, on Bob Holt, and it looks like Bob Holt's winning run has come to an end now as Neville Lance lines into turn number 1, goes through turn number 1, sets up into turn 2, onto the back straightaway on the final occasion, heading for the checkered flag and ending the run of Bob Holt. Bob Holt certainly performing well, but he can't find the answer to Neville Lance here, and Neville Lance goes on to take the checkered flag, and Bob Holt out of the contest, and now Neville Lance will continue on. This will be a good one. Phil Herreen on the inside, Neville Lance on the outside. They good start, beautiful start that time. And Phil Herreen tries to get the better of Neville Lance, moves him up track. Oh, and Neville Lance, oh well, Phil Herreen certainly didn't leave him much room there, and Neville Lance forced to go, well, you can see where he's finished up. And Phil Herreen still circulating the racetrack, but he certainly put the pressure on Neville Lance in that first turn. And Neville Lance stranded up there at the top of the racetrack, trying to get his stall race car off the circuit to take no further part in this pole shuffle. So Neville Lance eliminated. Phil Herreen continues on, this time taking on the current Australian champion, Graham Jones, and boy, haven't these two drivers had some exciting tussles during the heats. A beautiful start this time as they come off turn number 4 to take the starting flag, and Graham Jones tries to get the best of Phil Herreen, but Phil Herreen screams around the outside, but Graham Jones cuts down low and goes through once again, but it's still Phil Herreen leading, however, and Phil Herreen lifting that inside wheel And Graham Jones just washes out a little, gets a little too sideways. This allows Phil Herreen to gain that advantage, and Phil Herreen leading, driving beautifully, charging down the back straight away. What a magnificent 2 nights of racing we've seen from Phil Herreen, and coming off the final turn to go on and take the checkered flag, thus eliminating Graham Jones from the pole shuffle, and Graham Jones now starting from position number 3 in the final. Well, this race will now determine the pole position for the Australian Championship. Waiting on a start. Yes, we have a start. And Warren Eakins goes into the lead, and Phil Herreen there, but it's Warren Eakins leading, looking for the pole position, and in actual fact an unbeaten record up till now in race competition as we prepare for the running of the Australian Speedcar Championship final. But Warren Eakins doing a beautiful job out in front and charging into the first turn. He's got the measure of Phil Herreen. Phil Herreen's going to try everything in this last lap, but I think you'll find Warren Eakins will hold on down into the third turn, setting up off turn 4. Herreen coming with a big run, but it's Warren Eakins going on to take the checkered flag and will start from the pole position in the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship final. Sharing the front row will be Phil Herreen. And that gives us an opportunity to look at the point scores. Eakins 2005 points, Graham Jones 1,672, 1,571 points scored by the man who will start from position number 2, Phil Herreen. We now move on to the 1990 Mitsubishi Motors Australian Speedcar Championship over a distance of 40 laps, and the starters from position 1 through 24, Warren Eakins and Phil Herreen, Graham Jones from 3, Neville Lance from 4, Bob Holt from 5, Johnny Davidson starting from 6, Tom Watson Sr. out of 7, out of 8 Wayne Cover, out of 9 Tom Watson Jr., Jack Berry from 10, Jeff Blake from 11, Mark Gilbert from 12, position 13 Mike Figlimeni, position 14 Gary Dillon, position number 15 Aaron Benny, out of 16 Rod Bowen, Mike O'Donnell will drive car 25 from 17, position number 18 Terry King, 19 Darren Power, position 20 Stephen Graham, position number 21 Peter Kittle, position 22 driven by Gavin Lear in car 73 from position 22, position 23 Graham Parton, and position 24 Grant Coombe. As the pace starts to quicken now, and a bit of a jumble start there. One around sideways Mike O'Donnell, Graham Parton up over the side there of Peter Kittle in 14, and we've gone to a yellow light situation in the run to the start of the 1990 Mitsubishi Motors Australian Speedcar Grand Prix. The Australian Speedcar Championship, I should say, as the crash crew there just moving Graham Parton onto the infield. Darren Power also there involved in car number 59. Peter Kittle's okay, he's off and running. And set to go, a complete restart. Warren Eakins bringing the field around, and Phil Herreen on the front row with him. Just about set for a start. Yes, we've got a green this occasion, and away we go with the Australian Speedcar Championship over a distance of 40 laps, sponsored by Mitsubishi Motors. A bit of a traffic jam there. Mike O'Donnell up onto the inside of Aaron Benny, back further in the pack there, but here's Warren Eakins leading, 1 lap down, 39 laps remaining in the Mitsubishi Motors Australian Speedcar Championship, and Warren Eakins the race leader. Neville Lance now looking for a way through and picks up second position on Phil Herreen. Phil Herreen in third. Neville Lance now into second spot and heads off after Warren Eakins. Warren Eakins down the main straightaway leading, 2 laps down in the Australian Championship. There's Graham Jones now trying to work away on the inside there of Phil Herreen. Up ahead of those is Bob Holt representing the Northern Territory, who's driven superbly last night and tonight. But here's the interest at the top of the field, and Warren Eakins leading, but he's got a hard charging, hard driving Neville Lance going down hard onto that pole line in turn number 1 as the rest of the field streams on through. Down the back straightaway once again. And problems here. Grant Coombe and Peter Kittle upside down, getting out of the cockpit of car number 14. We have a red light in the Australian title, and Peter Kittle dragged out of the car, if not a little unceremoniously, but he's quite okay. And now the crew getting car number 14 back on its wheels. And that won't do the suspension a whole lot of good, but he's okay, Peter Kittle. And just waiting on a restart once again. There's the field set on the main straight. And so Warren Eakins set to lead them away. Phil Herreen breaks out from the pack there, and he's in third position. Tom Watson Senior and Junior, Graham Jones, and a congested running order at the top of the field. One up high there is Jeff Blake trying to get around the outside of Wayne Cover. Here comes Phil Herreen on the outside of Bob Holt. The two Watsons following through, Mark Gilbert, Wayne Cover also there, and it's still Warren Eakins leading down into turn number 1, but he's had plenty of pressure already applied by Neville Lance, and here's Neville Lance once again, really taking the Australian title right up to Graham Jones. There's Phil Herreen locked in combat with Bob Holt. Next one through is Graham Jones, followed by the two Watsons Senior and Junior, but there's Bob Holt and Phil Herreen in the hectic opening laps of the Australian Speedcar Championship final here at Darwin's Northline Speedway, and right down hugging that pole line there is Graham Jones coming up inside Phil Herreen. Phil Herreen shuts the gate on Graham Jones, and a titanic battle unfolding between Phil Herreen and Graham Jones. Next in there is Bob Holt, and here's Warren Eakins and Neville Lance up at the top of the field. They're already setting out in what will obviously be a battle royal for the Mitsubishi Motors Australian Speedcar Championship from Northline Speedway. Phil Herreen leading that contingent down the back straightaway as we cut down to Phil Herreen. There he is. He's got Graham Jones right behind. There's race leader Warren Eakins, just with a slight advantage over Neville Lance, but it's still plenty of laps remaining, and Neville Lance sitting in behind Warren Eakins in these early laps as we watch Wayne Cover and Mike Figlimeni coming up on the inside of Wayne Cover, and picks up one more position though. Cover coming again on the outside, and in actual fact still holds that position. Oh, banging wheels there between both West Australians as Mark Gilbert and Jeff Blake also join in there too, but Wayne Cover holding his position. Cars coming down the main straightaway, and here's this interesting battle between Bob Holt, Phil Herreen and Graham Jones. They're running down in third, fourth and fifth, I think you'll find, on the racetrack at the moment as the rest of the field come through. There's Phil Herreen. Phil Herreen in what will be fourth position. Bob Holt, yes, Bob Holt in third. Phil Herreen is fourth, and 10 laps completed. 1/4 of the distance already completed in the Mitsubishi Motors Australian Championship as we cut back to race leader Warren Eakins. Warren Eakins doing a beautiful job out in front, just opened up a very slight margin over Neville Lance. Next one through is Bob Holt, Phil Herreen, Graham Jones, one slowing in the background there as we continue on in this Australian Championship. The two Watsons through. Wayne Cover followed by Mike Figlimeni. There's Bob Holt. He's done nothing wrong so far in the Australian Championship, and very handily placed in the early stages of the race. Being chased hard, however, by Phil Herreen, and the next one through is Jones. So we're just looking at the top running order at this stage. It's Eakins, Lance, Holt, Herreen, Jones, and of course the two Watsons also there. Now the front runners, this is where it does get particularly interesting as they come up to put a lap on these tail end cars. Warren Eakins safely negotiating the traffic so far, and in actual fact has pulled away from Neville Lance, who is trying now to get through on the inside of Gavin Lear and also Graham Parton there. Graham Parton just comes across the front of him a little bit, and this allows Warren Eakins to get clear. Now Neville Lance switches to the outside, trying to get Graham Parton's ducks back low on the inside, down the straightaway. Yes, he's clear of the traffic, as is also Bob Holt and Graham Jones and Phil Herreen. And Graham Jones really working hard on Phil Herreen there. Yes, and gets through on the inside of Phil Herreen and Jones and Herreen. What a great battle we've seen from these two drivers over this weekend. And Jones now up into what is fourth position on the racetrack. Neville Lance in second, Holt third, Jones fourth, Herreen fifth. There's the race leader. Now moving up on Stephen Graham. Goes through safely on the inside of Stephen Graham to complete another lap. We have a yellow light on, and there's problems up here in turn number 1. Jeff Blake, it looks like, and Mark Gilbert, the drivers involved, bringing on the yellow light. But certainly Warren Eakins has not put a foot wrong so far, and being chased hard, however, by Neville Lance as the drivers, Jeff Blake 51 and Mark Gilbert, crash crew, the efficient crash crew in attendance here, set to go once again. And of course Warren Eakins, the man up front, being chased very hard by Neville Lance, and I think you can see you will see Neville Lance put just a little bit more pressure on Warren Eakins in this next series of laps as the Australian Championship unfolds. But Eakins leading. There's Bob Holt. He's done a beautiful job, as I said earlier in the commentary. Bob Holt really certainly in the heats last night and again tonight. Bob Holt driven superbly and now holding down third position. Graham Jones, there's car number 76 driven by Tom Watson Jr. He's making a forward move and gets through on the inside of Phil Herreen. Herreen coming again, but Tom Watson Jr. picks up one more placing, and certainly Phil Herreen. Now he's further back in the field there, and Tom Watson Jr. making a bit of a strong forward move as the laps unfold. But Bob Holt still in third position, and just ahead of him is Neville Lance on the racetrack, trying to pick up some of the other cars further around the racetrack at this stage, further back in the field, I should say. Bob Holt now having some pressure applied by Jones. Jones setting himself up for a pass on Holt as they come down the main straightaway. And still up ahead is 20 laps completed, 20 remaining. Neville Lance in second position, giving chase to this man on screen, Warren Eakins, unbeaten in race competition and attempting to create Australian Speedcar Championship history by becoming the first driver from the Northern Territory to win the National Driving Championship. As we watch Jones and Watson Jr. Jones on the outside, Watson Jr. on the inside there, and Watson Jr. certainly driving with a bit of aggression in this second half of the Australian Speedcar Championship. Herreen also the next one through. There's Jones, and Jones with a break now on Tom Watson Jr. Also up there too, we're looking at Neville Lance and the race leader Warren Eakins. Warren Eakins down into turn number 1, driving car number 45, powered by a Cosworth, and he's still leading the Australian Championship. The high-speed dress parade around the Northline Speedway in Darwin, coming down the main straight, and still Warren Eakins, and the track becoming slicker and slicker as these laps unfold. Bob Holt still in third position. Jones, Watson Jr. the next one through. A top running order and the top drivers in Australia battling out this 1990 Mitsubishi Motors Australian Speedcar Championship. Still Warren Eakins leading, and as I said earlier, Warren Eakins scoring 2,005 points from the qualifying heat. Unbeaten from 5 heats, 5 starts, 5 wins. Warren Eakins, as the dust starts to rise around the Northline Speedway and the laps unfold, but it's still Warren Eakins, never having put a wheel wrong so far in his quest to win the Australian title. Jeff Blake goes up high on the racetrack. He's in front there, Gary Dillon in front of him as they come down the back stretch. But still Warren Eakins cars now all around the Northline racetrack, and here's Warren Eakins coming up to put a lap on Northern Territory driver John Davidson. Eakins chooses the high line as they run into turn 3, then ducks down low. There's Bob Holt. He's got a gaggle of cars ahead of him also. Here's Eakins taking the first of the lap cars, and that's John Davidson safely through on the inside there. Now underneath Graham Parton. Oh, Neville Lance balked a little bit there for room once again. Certainly Neville Lance not negotiating the lap cars as easily as Warren Eakins, and Warren Eakins having a dream run out in front so far. Now Neville Lance clears himself of those lap cars and once again has Warren Eakins in his sights. There's Bob Holt, Graham Parton, also Gavin Lear there too. But here's Warren Eakins leading, and leading well, leading beautifully in fact down the straightaway as the laps start to unfold. And now 30 laps done and just 10 laps remaining in the Australian Speedcar Championship final, and Warren Eakins 10 laps away from creating Australian Speedcar Championship history. And now Tom Watson Jr. gets a run around the outside of Bob Holt, and but Bob Holt fights back again, and Tom Watson Jr. a little bit of over-aggression there and runs up over the side there of Bob Holt. But Warren Eakins still the man, the pace leader, the pacemaker, and the man setting himself with an appointment with history in Australian midget racing. But he's still got several laps remaining. We're into the last 10, and Warren Eakins doing a beautiful job out in front. And now here once again is this battle between Bob Holt and Tom Watson Jr. And Bob Holt right up on the pole line there. Now Tom Watson Jr. looks for the outside but couldn't pull it off on that occasion, and here's that man Phil Herreen once again coming underneath Tom Watson Jr. Oh, great battle this one, and Tom Watson Jr. and Phil Herreen closes up that gap once again. It's a battle between Bob Holt, Tom Watson Jr. and Phil Herreen for the minor placings in the Australian Speedcar Championship final, battling for 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. And Bob Holt and Tom Watson Jr. with a beautiful inside pass, and also Phil Herreen following him through as 5 laps remaining. 5 laps in the Australian Speedcar Championship, and in actual fact something may have happened to Bob Hull's car there, because he does seem to have slackened off the pace a little as Phil Herreen also gets through ahead of Tom Watson Jr. Not too many laps remaining now. I think there's something like only 4 laps away from victory in the Australian Speedcar Championship for this, quite possibly, this man on screen, on camera, Warren Eakins, as he comes down the main straightaway, into turn number 1 and lining up to pass. Oh, one slowing noticeably there. Phil Herreen had to take evasive action to get around the outside, and this allows Tom Watson Jr. once again to bridge that advantage that Phil Herreen had. Rod Bowen, Warren Eakins attempting to lap Rod Bowen, I should say, and Warren Eakins leading still as we wind down the laps in the Mitsubishi Motors Championship final of Australia here at the Northline Speedway in Darwin. Surely not too many laps remaining now for Warren Eakins, and this race is just about set to go down to the wire with Warren Eakins taking the checkered flag. 2 laps remaining on our lap count, just 2 laps remaining for Warren Eakins. There he is coming off turn 4, and he should have the white flag. Yes, there it is, white flag out. Completion of lap 39, and now here it is. Warren Eakins sets off on his final lap down the back straightaway, and smoke coming from the tail of the car there too. Smoke billowing from car number 45 as he comes off the main straightaway to take the checkered flag and victory in the Australian Speedcar Championship final. Warren Eakins the winner, and there seems, just looking off screen in actual fact, and there seems to be some confusion on the starting line because the checkered flag did not come out for Warren Eakins, but I can assure you he has completed 40 laps. Warren Eakins has in actual fact pulled to the infield. Seems to be some confusion here. Certainly no one seems to be aware of what exactly is going on. There's General John Day standing on the edge of the racetrack. The race continuing. The race is continuing. Warren Eakins is on the infield. Neville Lance has inherited the lead. Just exactly what is going on here, no one really seems quite sure at the moment, but the race is continuing. We're into something like lap number 42. We stand corrected on that, I hasten to add, but by our lap chart count, we have done 40 laps in the Australian Championship, and now the checkered flag is waved, shall we say, albeit gingerly, from General John Day. But we'll have to wait on confirmation. Well, Neville Lance believes he's won the Australian title. Oh, and problems up here in turn number 4 between young Watson Jr. there and Phil Herreen, and one other car involved there. But pandemonium here at the finish of the Australian Speedcar Championship by, as I said, as I reiterate, by our lap chart count, Warren Eakins did 40 laps. But we're just waiting to see what's going to transpire. And Speedcar officials now frantically checking through lap scoring charts as the cars, as you can see there, stopped on the main straightaway. Crash crew members now attending the cars, but really no one seems to be too sure exactly what is happening here. Now we cross down to our infield camera there, and there's Neville Lance preparing to get out of the cockpit of the number 8 race car. And certainly Neville Lance, well, he looks pretty happy. He thinks he's won the title, just unbuckling there. And he did cross the line when the checkered flag come out. Yes, well, there it is. He's pretty pleased, but we are now wait the official, or rather the provisional, I should say, placings from course announcer Chris Wills.
The winner of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship, Neville Lance from Perth, Western Australia. A bit of drama, a bit of controversy in those last few laps, Neville. Just explain the situation as you saw it.
Well, I didn't really see any problems at all. All I was doing was racing Warren, and a bit of smoke came out. He pulled off. I kept on going and going. I just waited till the checkered flag came out, and when the checkered flag came out, as far as I was concerned, it was finished. I didn't know if I'd done 100 laps or 45 laps. I never looked for a white flag, only the checkered.
Well, of course, just talking about the race, 40 laps, a long way around the Northline Speedway. How did you feel during the race? Were you confident from the outset, or how did the race unfold for you?
Well, actually, it wasn't until about, I'd say, halfway through the race I felt the car was coming on stronger and stronger. Warren did have a bit of a lead on me there for a while, but I felt I was picking him up, actually, but I don't know. He didn't finish, but I did, so I'm happy.
You were trailing him all the way. With the lap cars, any problem?
Not really. Only a couple got in the way for us for a little while, but they soon got out the way.
Okay, on behalf of Carrick Video and National Speedway Illustrated magazine, congratulations, the winner of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship, Neville Lance.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Well, the hard luck story of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship, Warren Eakins. Warren, what is the situation? Do you feel you won the title?
Yes, Dennis, I've just been told we did 43 laps instead of 40. I received the white flag twice. The general was maybe gone to sleep or just wasn't quite aware of the fact that we were supposed to receive the checkered flag. He moved out to give me the checkered flag and was unsure, and I feel that I did win the race even doing 43 laps.
And through the Speedcar Control Council of Australia procedure, you filed a protest?
Yes, I have. No hard feelings against Neville or any of the other competitors. I just feel that there's been an injustice done, and I want to see it put right.
Now, of course, you blew a diff. Is that the story?
Yes, I blew a diff when I should have received the checkered flag, but I feel that I should have received the checkered flag 2 laps prior. But that's how it goes, and I think that we've still won the race.
Well, we want to wish you some luck, I guess. It robbed you right at the finish, and we'll await the outcome of the protest.
Thanks very much, Dennis.
Well, one driver who drove a superb race to actually finish, I think, in 4th position as they went, 4th or 5th as they went across the finish line was Bob Holt. Bob, how was the race from your viewpoint? Certainly in those early laps, you were right up there in contention.
Oh, I had a pretty good smile on my face for the first 15 laps, but young Tom Watson, run out of brakes and we almost had a pretty bad accident, and we escaped out of it, but my muffler was knocked back into my rear tyre and tore all the exhaust pipe off. My engine went off song, but I was happy to qualify, and I think Northern Territory has come of age in speedcar racing, and there's some top operators, top equipment, and I think it's a very good show. It's just a shame, a real shame that it never went to 40 laps.
Well, the end of the Australian Speedcar Championship, a little bit of controversy perhaps and a bit of confusion. Phil, how did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for the guys that have got the confusion. When you're up in the first 3 or 4, as I understood we were, the white flag was out for 2, maybe 3 laps, I suppose, for the drivers that were still a lap or 2 down. That's the way I sort of saw it. I saw the white flag a couple of times. The checker flag came out, the guy down here, and a white flag, and I come around again and got a second checkered flag. I then backed off on the back straight after we'd done over a lap, and poor old young Watson Tommy Watson Jr. was still sort of going hammer and tongs and ran over us and punctured a tyre, and we ended up both in the wall up there. But I come down and checked with the clerk, of course. He said, no, we definitely had the checker flag out, and as far as we're concerned, the race was over. So I just hope that's the way it is. But it's just unfortunate that that's the way it panned out. There was a white flag that side of the track and a checkered flag here.
Just after a magnificent promotion over the 2 days of the Speedcar Championship, it was unfortunate this situation did occur, but you, as I understand, have got the runner-up position at this stage at least.
Yes, they've given the official positions out, and the Western Australia car is mine. Neville Lance drove a fantastic race. He'd gone through earlier on. They've said that I was second.
Tom Watson Jr.
Watson, who was on my tail at that situation, who didn't quite know where the race was finished, was third. I think Holty may have been 4th. These places are all unofficial, of course.
Well, talking now with Warren Eakins. Warren, more drama at the Australian title. Your protest has been upheld, and now you are declared the winner of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship.
Yes, Dennis, there's slight correction of what you say there. I did lodge a protest, but they returned it to me, and they said don't protest until a decision has been made, and therefore I didn't have to protest, and they corrected the decision themselves.
Well, as you said in our original interview, of course, you claimed right from the start that you'd done 43 laps when the white flag had come out.
Yes, I had.
So how do you feel now?
Great.
Okay, congratulations, Warren Eakins.
Thank you.
Well, plenty of drama surrounding the outcome of the Australian Speedcar Championship here at Darwin's Northline Speedway. Following an examination of the lap scoring sheets, we can now report to you that in third place was South Australian driver Phil Herreen. Officially placed second was Perth driver Neville Lance, and the winner of the 1990 Australian Speedcar Championship is Warren Eakins from the Northern Territory. Certainly plenty of drama, certainly plenty of action over the 2 nights of speedcar racing here at Northline. And so on behalf of Carrick Video, this is Dennis Newland. Thanks for being with us, and catch us again next time when we present speedway racing from across Australia.